Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Red Devil Experience. I'm your host, Eric. We are here live doing the Red Devil Daily updates, latest on Erik Ten Hag. Apparently, he is going to be staying at Manchester United. He is going to continue on for the time being, at the very least. He is going to be given an opportunity to try and change Manchester United's fortunes around and his fortunes as well. So we're going to break that down. We're going to get into a couple other things. We got a couple player updates on, just injury status and stuff like that. Squad updates as well. And we're going to discuss about, what happened the other day between the media, how they seem to really make the story bigger than I guess it actually was. So we're going to discuss all that stuff. Before we do, please smash the like button for me if you can, because it helps the channel grow and I greatly appreciate it. So if you could take 2 seconds of your time and hit that like button, I greatly appreciate it. And if you're not a subscriber and you enjoy the content and you want to become part of our community, then go ahead, subscribe, turn on notifications so you don't miss a live show at all. I see my buddy Daniel is in here. Shout out to my buddy Daniel. Good to see you. How you doing, Daniel? Hope everything is well. But we're gonna get straight into the news. We're gonna go through the news first, and then we'll get to the chat and we'll do some nice discussions as always. Rajad is in here as well. Good to see you, Rajad. How you doing, buddy? So we got this early in the day, and this update came from some Samuel Luckhurst. Now I have to start off by saying that, for the amount of news that we got, the day before the meeting for, INEOS, discussing Erik Ten Hag's future and if they might sack him or not, it's been real quiet. It's been real quiet, and we're going to talk about that, and we're going to talk about kind of how, it is a disgrace. I did kind of, I put my hands up. I kind of did eat into it a little bit too much. I still feel a certain way about it. And I'll get into that and I'll give my side of the story. But we are going to discuss, once again, the media just not doing the job. I don't understand why they have to be the way they are. Especially some of them, because I did give credit. There's a couple journalists out there that they are credible. They are more than credible, and they usually are very respected, but I don't understand why they have to join in to that whole circus type of thing. I don't understand why they can't just be a little bit more, I guess, honest is the word, but we'll talk about that. Let's get to the news. So Samuel Luckhurst came earlier on in the day saying there have been conflicting whispers regarding Ten Hag's fate, and a source said nothing should be read into the club's failure to communicate an outcome on Tuesday night. A United source said the gathering in Knightsbridge was a routine monthly executive committee meeting and that there was no reason to expect a statement in its aftermath. INEOS have been asked for comments. Now, there is a man that works for or is associated with the United stand. He seems to get inside information. I'm sure they have plenty of connections. So he's really the one that broke this today. No other real journalists, Samuel Luckhurst, Laurie Whitwell, none of the usuals, none of the big journalists, the so-called big journalists, the legacy journalists, none of them have actually put anything out worth of substance. Since they, riled up a whole circus and storm on Monday, and then received basically no information, Tuesday. So Tuesday was the quietest, one of the quietest days. Today's been pretty quiet as well, barring a few updates. So Sam C reported this, and he's pretty much the one that broke this news that everybody's been reporting on today. Saying that Erik Ten Hag highly likely to remain a Manchester United manager. Sources confirmed to me. Manager understands the situation currently at Manchester United isn't up to the standard of where it should be, and sources close to him believe he's able to turn it around. We could talk about that. I have quite a different opinion than to whatever source this may be. But I think well, for now we could take it as credible unless disproven otherwise in one way or another. And we just did get, updates from Fabrizio. So, And Axe saying, so it means just a routine meeting, only the noise made by the press created by hype. Got a new diamond chain. Well, Axe, yeah, I think you're kind of in and around that ballpark. I think really, the meeting was always routine. I think that kind of got lost because it was mentioned by somebody somewhere. I don't think all of them said it, but there was one or two that did. They did say that, you know, this meeting was scheduled way before time. It wasn't in necessarily an emergency meeting. It wasn't one that they just made up because they were like, we have to go discuss if we're going to sack him or not. This meeting was planned ahead of time. What happened was is the meeting and the other topics that they were going to have, the discussion of his future was added to that. And maybe they would have discussed it anyway because it did cover a lot of topics around Manchester United, and you know, they probably kind of would have discussed, how they think he's doing in the job, regardless if it was good or bad. They would have probably touched on it. But the media did blow it on a bigger aspect than maybe it actually was in reality. And I think we're kind of seeing that because the media has been real quiet. And I think for one is because Monday was pure speculation. Now, we did say pure speculation, and sometimes I get carried away in the thought process of thinking about things. So it might sound like, I was really buying into it or I really bought into it, but I just kind of explore the paths that are given to us at that moment. So when there's the news, I do tend to go down those paths, and maybe it does sound like, I was 100% in. I'm always wary of the media. I don't trust them, in general. But we try to have discussions over what is being told to us. Obviously, we always have to keep in mind that, the media has deceived us before. The media make things up. The media lies. So we just have to be careful about that, And, yeah, and I think we're seeing that because yesterday they said nothing. Today, they barely said anything. You know what I mean? And it's clearly evident that they can't, they were able to speculate that day, but they can't really say things that came out of the meeting if they're not being given information. And I think that's also another thing is that INEOS isn't really giving them information. There hasn't really been briefs. Nobody's really getting any type of information. So, I think, and Axe did say Occam's razor yesterday. No, you were pretty much, on the dot. But let's get into a couple more updates, and then, we'll have like a full discussion about it, and then we could kind of freestyle afterwards and just talk about whatever we want to talk about, because there hasn't been a lot of updates, but there has been some. So the Disco Mirror followed up that by Sam C, basically saying sources have said it's business as usual at Manchester United in the wake of yesterday's board meeting. We then got an update saying Erik Ten Hag is planning to return from his holiday early next week to start planning for the game against Brentford next Saturday. We then got a similar update coming from Rob Dawson saying Erik Ten Hag is preparing for the Brentford match as usual and has been in contact with his staff who remained in Manchester during the break. So, his staff stayed. Ten Hag went on holiday. I'm sure the staff was doing things, that they needed to take care of in terms of maybe preparation and stuff like that for when the players come back and, all that good stuff. And yeah, and apparently Erik Ten Hag's coming back a little bit early, or I mean, not early, but like early, in the week, next week. So maybe Monday, something like that, or maybe he's back on a Sunday. But yeah, it seems like, while there was a discussion, maybe it just wasn't ever going to lead to a sack. I still believe that, I think a change would be a good idea. I still think that, like, I wouldn't be against the change if they made the change, and I can see positives for the change. But obviously, we're not going to get that change at this current moment, and he is going to be given games. Now, I like to be fair, and I have to be fair to Erik Ten Hag. And while, we are in a bad position, and while we are, we don't want to see where the team is, where we are, and it's not good, and it's not looking good, and it's been very negative, right? I have to be fair to Erik Ten Hag, and while we are 14th, and while we are, looking closer to relegation than we are at the top four. We are not that far off if he can turn it around. Now, I doubt that he can turn it around because I think it's been so poor that it seems like a very, very, hard task. And the odds are certainly, I believe, in my opinion, against him. But he can still turn it around, realistically, because we're only 6 points off top four. So it's still very early. I just don't see encouraging signs of that happening quickly. And I think that it can go very, very wrong. It could go the opposite way very, very quickly. Like, if we don't get a couple results in the next couple matches and the other teams above us widen the gap, then it's going to be much, much worse. But technically, and to be fair, he can still turn it around. So, we're only 4 points off of 6 points. I'm sorry. Wait. Yeah, we're only 6 points off the top four. So, yeah. Axe is saying they have to give him until Christmas, at least otherwise it would make them incompetent due to their choice last summer. And a couple people have brought up that point, Axe, and I think it's a fair point. I think it's a fair argument to make. They did choose to keep him in the summer. I think that's actually one of the reasons, excuse me, for not sacking him. I think that's one of the reasons why they decided against sacking him. And while there's doubts and while there's concerns, and some more than others on that board, specifically Sir Jim Ratcliffe, I still do believe that Sir Jim Ratcliffe is very, very worried. There was an update about it, but I think he's not too thrilled about, Erik Ten Hag. I don't think he's... I think, he's definitely lost some of the trust that Sir Jim had in him. While others, are still trying to say, like, you gotta give him some time to come out of this. And I think, to be fair, because there's been a lot of talk today, and obviously, I did mention and I did say that, if they don't sack him, you're going to see people, the same people that, bigged up INEOS when they didn't sack him, the first time. A lot of them are now pissed off at INEOS and calling INEOS names and calling them incompetent and stuff like that because they wanted him to be sacked now. They've changed their minds. And I'm not going to do that because I don't think it's right. I think the hierarchy, I think, whatever it is, whatever decision you want, and I said that, I think that maybe he should get the sack. I was here for it. And I still think that, it's not going to work out at one point or another. I haven't seen things to make me feel like, there's something that we really got there to work with, that it's going to make the season an acceptable season. Now we can improve a whole lot, from this position, and maybe, then I can change my mind on it. But as of right now, the way things stand and the proof that we are been given, that's where I stand on it. But to INEOS, they're clearly following a process and they're clearly operating in a certain way. I mean, if Sir Jim has a final say, or he has the overarching power, he can just overrule everybody. And clearly he's not doing that. So he isn't trusting his CEO and his director of football. And he is listening to them. And while he may want one thing, they're clearly asking for him to be given more time, and they're clearly explaining to him that you got to give this guy a little bit more time to try and go through the process, So I think that the board is, it's not incompetent. It's just you didn't get the decision you want, so you're angry, and now you want to call them incompetent. I don't think they're incompetent. Now it could lead to more people seeing it as incompetent if this decision doesn't bode well. If we end up, a week or two down the line, or the next 3 matches, if we don't really get a win, it's going to look really bad for INEOS, because people are going to be like, they made the wrong decision. But nobody can actually say, I mean, you could have the opinion, but nobody actually knows if it is for sure the right or wrong decision at this moment. Because like I said, while it has been crap, and it has been shit, and it's been hard to watch, and it's been hard to support, at the same time, we're not far off of top 4. Like, we just need a couple good results to go our way in the next couple matches, and we'll be right back into a much better and much positive position, so he can technically turn it around. Like, I don't think they're wrong necessarily for 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 keeping him on. But I think that there is a large possibility that it can go wrong. And it is a gamble. It is a gamble. So, um, without United, the media basically have nothing to report on. From Lyle, Lyle is saying, without United, the media basically have nothing to report about. Biggest club in England, hated, adored, but never ignored. And I think you're 100% right. I mean, we always talk about this. Even I got a group chat going on, and there's a City fan in there, right? City fan. We'll call him a City fan. I don't take him seriously in anything that he says, because I don't believe he's not in a. Whenever he decided to support the club, whatever, he wasn't like many of us who supported United from day one, from birth, or were like born into it from, their fathers or uncles or stuff like that. And even he constantly sends like United news in the chat, and we're like, dude, I think you're obsessed with our club. Like, I think you're secretly a United fan. You just don't want to support us because we haven't been good over the past 11 years. Because you talk about United more than you talk about City, and you talk more about United than we actually talk about United. Like, and he's constantly sending stuff in there. And, I think he responded by saying, well, Sky Sports, he's like, I don't follow United news, but Sky Sports is always putting up your news. And I was like, yeah, that's because we're one of the biggest clubs, and we get them the most interaction and the most clicks. And I was like, that's why they don't talk about you, because I was like, nobody gives a shit about your club. Nobody cares. Nobody respects your club. So, as bad as we are, we're still bigger than you in that entity. Maybe not on the pitch, but off the pitch, we're giants compared to them still. So yeah, 100%. Do I think the Prem is overrated? I don't think it's overrated. I think maybe kind of the quality has gone down slightly over the years. I think at one point the Prem was clearly way ahead at the top. I think it's slightly gone down. I think Saudi Arabia has to play a role with that, with the money that they're spending, and they're taking many players. I mean, because for me, I think, somebody like an Ivan Toney, at the age he is, back in the day, he would have never went to Saudi Arabia. He would be in the Premier League, and he would have went from Brentford to, a club at least maybe in the top 6, if not top 4. And I think, we're seeing more and more players like that still have a lot of years left in their age, kind of going to other places and not really sticking around in the Prem. And I think that's hurting the Premier League. But I still think the Premier League is the top league. I still think it's the best league. But I think the gap has sort of kind of narrowed in recent years, whereas in the past it was like clearly way above everything. Like nothing could even touch it. So Richard is in here. Richard, good to see you, buddy. How you doing? How's everything? How you feeling? Lion saying, so still no Thomas Frank at the wheel. No. For you, no. Not yet. But we have to wait and see. Richard saying, I have been down this path before, 73, 74, and we left it too late. Yeah, I mean, it's a possibility, and that's kind of what I'm concerned about, because they could leave it kind of too late. I mean, it is early. You can make arguments for both sides. You can make arguments for the fact that, it is early and he can turn it around. You can make arguments for the fact that it is early and you can still salvage something if you, get a new manager bounce or something like that. So, yeah. Axe saying the rat should shut up and invest. Why the hell is he at this club if he isn't willing to invest like mad? Well, I think we talked about this, Axe. Like, I get that sentiment, right? To a certain degree, but at the same time, he's not the majority owner. So, he has invested quite a lot of money already, of his own money. If it was me, as much as I love United, the fact that the Glazers are there and they're the majority owner, I wouldn't be sinking all of my money in to invest it either. Like, I think you have to be smart about it. You can't just you know bail the Glazers out completely because they want to be dirty with the way they run a football club and what they've done to the club. And while they've hurt the club significantly, and maybe you're a fan and you're trying to help the club out, at the same time you still have them there, and you kind of have to balance it out. So I think if Sir Jim was full owner, I think we would see a lot more investment from him. And again, we're gonna have to see because as I said the other day, supposedly, apparently, and I guess we'll wait for official confirmation on this before we confirm it as 100% facts. But with the whole new stadium project and stuff like that, apparently United aren't going to get any type of government funding in any way. So they're not going to get any money. They might get money for the transportation, like the railway system or something like that, but that might be about it. Everything else is going to have to go basically on Manchester United. So it's going to be Sir Jim Ratcliffe, the Glazers, if you could get some money out of them, which I don't know, how you're going to do that, because they obviously don't like to put money into United. They don't use their own money and stuff like that. And obviously United are hurting for money. We're tight in the money aspect. And Sir Jim is probably going to have to put up some of his own money, more than he already has. And he's going to have to get outside investment as well. So, Axe is asking what happened in 73, 74. And Rich is saying we got relegated. So, yeah. You know. And we talked about Ferguson the other day. I kind of wanted to bring this up because I did see a post earlier in the day, and it kind of just had me thinking about the discussion that we were having the other day. And if you do think about it, and we talked about how no one's ever going to get that time again, and they're not. I mean, it took Sir Alex about 7 years to win the league, and there was a lot of ups and downs. Like, it took him basically up until the year before, where he finished second, and then they really started. That's like they went from 11th when he took over, I think, to second. Then from second they went to 13th. Then from 13th they went to 8th. Then from 8th they went to, I can't remember. But it took a while for that to happen. And then once he hit second, like about 6 years or so in seasons, that's when everything really clicked. That's when it was like second, first, second, third, first, second, third, whatever, and that's when we were just consistently hitting those levels. But nobody's gonna get that time. So I mean, Lyons, he's not really my friend. He's more of an associate. I don't consider him my friend. I consider him a jackass, to be quite honest. I don't really like the guy, but he's like, it's through other people that I know that I like them and consider them friends. So yeah. Man City don't have real fans. I mean, no, they have some from the people that live in Manchester. I consider those people, really, because they just don't have any history. They haven't been around for a while, and they never really accomplished anything. So, where were all these external people when they were nothing? That's kind of how I see it. Agreed, but like I'm saying, he was good before the contract. Just talking about the football. Remember, he was averaging like 3 to 4 goals per game. Are you talking about Ali? Yeah. So I think nobody's gonna get that time that Ferguson had, and I think people kind of like they kind of skip over that part of the story, that it did take like that many seasons, because that's a lot of seasons. No manager's really going to get that. And I kind of said the other day that especially in today's time, you have to really show improvement from season to season for people to keep giving you more and more chances and more seasons, and stick with you. And I think, we probably become quite more impatient in today's time, for sure. And that process ain't gonna happen. I mean, we're 3 seasons into Ten Hag, and everybody pretty much wants him sacked now. And he won't, unless he can turn this around. He won't survive past this season. And maybe there is an argument, like some of you have been saying, that you know f- he needs more than, like, the manager needs more than 3 seasons. And maybe so, but I don't think they can get it this around this time. Because it did take, Fergie's thing wasn't straightforward either. I mean, you start off in 11th, you went all the way to 2nd, then you went all the way to 13th, then you went to like 6th or 8th or whatever it was, and then you went up, and then he went back down, and then he went up again. There was a lot of ups and downs. So even his path wasn't like, he started here and then it was improvement there and improvement there. Now obviously I wasn't alive for part of that, and then I was also too young for that part of it, so I wasn't able to see certain aspects in terms of the fact of, like, what was the style of play. Was there things that were encouraging, but the results were poor, and we had other problems such as injuries. I do know that there was like some off-field issues and stuff like that, with players and stuff at certain seasons and stuff like that. But obviously Richard can enlighten us a lot more because he was there for it, and I'm sure he remembers very, very clearly, and he has a better account of it. So if he wants to, he can enlighten us on that period. And if I said anything that was um incorrect or inaccurate, he could obviously correct me. uh Lyle saying massive potential for that season, but the contract Ronaldo Maguire messed it all up for him. So yeah, the chat having discussion about Ronaldo Ollie and stuff like that. I kind of missed the whole Ollie thing. Axe said, and I missed this, but I want to read it. Axe said, "Let's be serious. Sacking him after choosing him during the summer would just make the player's power huge. Furthermore, most of the current squad was bought by Erik Ten Hag. The next manager will be eaten." Um, yeah, I mean, I hope not, because we're not supposed to be doing that, Axe. We're not supposed to be doing that. INEOS is not supposed to be doing that. We're not supposed to no longer have that. We're not supposed to have that problem anymore. We're not supposed to be in trouble if we sack a manager and then get a new manager, and then 90% of the squad is no good to the new manager. So I would hope that that's not the case. I mean, at least for the very least, the 5 players that we bring in, I think, can be used by basically every manager this summer. The players that INEOS have brought in, I think every manager, no matter what manager you get, I think they can use them. I think you could fit them into a system. I think some of the problems would be, some of the players um bought prior to INEOS, because it was a different direction. And then obviously, the ones that were here prior to even Erik Ten Hag coming in, like, those might be a problem, but those are players that we have to deal with anyway, because there are real arguments for them that they have been here too long, and obviously, maybe they're not good enough and they do need to be moved on and they need to be replaced. So yeah. But we do have a couple more updates, which I'm going to get into right now. And one of the updates is, this is one of these so-called insider accounts. He seems pretty credible, so and I thought it was an interesting thing. So we can discuss it. And he said, as reported earlier, which is the update we bring by Sam C, saying Ten Hag is set to continue for the upcoming games. Although results have to improve, or change will happen. He's been told that Sir Jim and Wilcox among those who are most concerned with Erik Ten Hag's progress. Ten Hag's safe, but he's under pressure. And that sounds, to me, that sounds a lot more realistic. That sounds a lot more, I want to say, more on the truth, less opinion based, than what we were getting from the media, and in that aspect, in that terms. Because clearly, clearly they haven't decided to sack him, because none of that. has come out. There's no indication of that happening, and clearly, any reports that have come out seem like that he is going to keep his job as of right now. And I think it's an obvious thing to say, but I think it's the most fairest statement to say in terms of that. Results do have to improve, or he will lose his job. And I've kind of been hitting that key and kind of that note for the past couple of shows that, like, he does have to get the results. I still believe, regardless, if he's going to be here or not, we can't draw and lose to Brentford. We can't draw or lose to Fenerbahce. We can't draw or lose to whoever it is that's after that. We need to win those matches. He needs to win those matches, and United need to win those matches because we need to improve. And if he wants to give himself a better chance, and maybe if he wants to win some people back over, he needs to do it because we need to see improved performances and results for many different reasons. Bring a little bit of faith back into him, a little bit of positivity, and just an improved standing in the tables, in both tables. So, I think, he is definitely still under pressure. Even if he's going to keep his job, he's clearly still under pressure because if he doesn't get the results, he is going to end up getting sacked at some point. And with every bad result that comes, it's going to be more and more increasingly likely that it's going to happen. So we do have this other update that came from Samuel Luckhurst, who apparently is saying that Thomas Tuchel was Sir Jim Ratcliffe's favorite candidate had Manchester United sacked Erik Ten Hag in the summer. Which this update kind of confuses me because it's been reported by numerous different people that Sir Jim Ratcliffe and Sir David Brailsford were the one that originally, basically made the decision to keep Erik Ten Hag on, in the summer after the FA Cup final. And it's like, but if he had his favorite to replace him, why did he choose to keep him then? But I mean, maybe both can be true. Maybe he still, maybe he was a favorite candidate if they did decide to keep him, but maybe he wasn't. Maybe he just wasn't. Maybe he didn't want to make that change. I don't know. But yeah. And then before we went live, or as we were just about to get ready to go live, Fabrizio had a couple updates. And we had another update about Jean-Claude Blanc. So let's hit those. Fabrizio came with his own updates, which I think is probably, out of the top tier people, you want to call them. I think Fabrizio has probably come with the most credible thing that anybody said in the past 2 days, because none of the media has really said anything and it's been real quiet. So he said that Erik Ten Hag has still not received any communication from Manchester United board on his future. He remains calm and focused on the upcoming games. INEOS are discussing him internally, and the situation is a tense one. And I buy that too, because I think that actually the board is pretty split right now. I still think that Sir Jim, and obviously we got that update before, that Sir Jim and Jason Wilcox are super concerned. I think Sir Jim is growing impatient, and I don't think he has too much patience left with Erik Ten Hag. And I think maybe he might still force a change sooner rather than later if the results don't improve. And I do think that the board is kind of split. I think there's some people in there, Sir Jim and maybe, Sir David Brailsford and potentially Jason Wilcox, that are, they might have been looking at a change, but I still believe that Omar Barada and Dan Ashworth are the ones that are, fighting to give Erik Ten Hag more time. I think they're making the case for him. I think they're saying that the best decision that they can make right now is to, he still has time to turn this around, and they kind of have to keep some patience. So yeah, I do think that, it is kind of tense in there, because I think there's arguments on both sides, and I think there's different opinions and different ideas floating around. You know, and you know, maybe that's one of the reasons why they took so long the other day as well, because it was like about a 6 hour meeting, even though, you know, he wasn't the only discussion they talked about. He wasn't the only topic they talked about, but yeah. And then we got this update from Simon Stone, and Simon Stone basically saying that he approached uh United Chief Executive Jean-Claude Blanc, whose name hasn't really been involved in any of this stuff. And he's kind of just been in the background. You know, everybody else gets mentioned, but his name wasn't one that was really popping up. And so he was saying that he approached Chief Executive Jean-Claude Blanc for a comment on Ten Hag's future at the European Clubs Association meeting in Athens. And apparently Jean-Claude Blanc politely declined to comment on that aspect. Uh, and then also, to follow that up, Simon Stone then did say, for now, Ten Hag remains in his job, and he is having a few days away from the club as is customary during the break. So unless the situation changes, he will return to begin preparations for the league game with Brentford at Old Trafford on 19th October. Now, I do find it interesting. I don't think it's a surprise. I find it kind of interesting because you can probably make the argument that, you know, they haven't briefed the media. INEOS, they haven't briefed the media. And I think the media hurt themselves on this because they made it seem like they were going to get this information after the meeting. And clearly INEOS have decided to not talk to them in any form, whether it's, you know, giving them a brief from somewhere or some type of update. They haven't given them anything. And I find it kind of interesting because, number one, that was never promised. And we did mention that. We did mention that, you know, they might not say anything necessarily. But I think it's interesting that they decided not to tell them anything because I think maybe they might be upset with the whole media on for what they did on Monday and causing like a giant shitstorm when it was a lot of speculation and nothing really concrete. They were doing pretty much guesswork because from what they said to what has happened after the meeting, clearly they weren't getting information from super credible sources. And it was almost like they were making up a lot of shit because they haven't said anything and they can't say anything because they haven't been told anything. Which leads me to believe a lot of the shit that they said on Monday, you know, they didn't even get them from... It wasn't like it was a brief from the club. It wasn't like it was a brief from the higher ups that, you know, this is what the meeting was going to be about and what's going to happen and stuff like that. So maybe, you know, while they never actually said that they were going to communicate anything, maybe they decided on withholding any information at all, and maybe they came out of it and said, you know, don't tell them fucking anything because look, you know, look at the way they're acting and look at what they're doing. So yeah. Lyle saying our managerial situation is a crazy tough one for United. It's not as cut and dry as with others. It's intriguing though, I must say. And Axe is saying, aren't the most knowledgeable people when it comes to football supposed to be Ashworth and Barada? Why not trusting them? Well, they are because, you know, Barada is the CEO and he has all that experience at City and, you know, everywhere else. And Ashworth is as well. And I think he is trusting them. I think that's why he's still here, Axe. I think he is. Like, you know, I think you make a good point in that, you know, why wouldn't you trust them? Because they are supposed to be the football people, right? They are supposed to be the expertise, especially if you compare them to Jim Ratcliffe or Sir David Brailsford. Clearly, they have way more football expertise, and they know way more than them, and you know, and how to handle situations concerning football aspects. But I would just say that I think that's what's happening. I'm just saying that there is always a possibility at some point or another that he does decide that, you know, I listened to you. I gave you the benefit of the doubt. We haven't seen the turnaround. So now it's time to go the way I want to go, which is I want to see a change because things aren't improving. And he's worried because obviously Sir Jim has his own opinion. and so Jim has his own thoughts, but he's not necessarily acting on them. Because if he was acting on them, I think Erik Ten Hag would be sacked. I think he wouldn't be in a job right now. I think Sir Jim would have removed him. But clearly he's not acting on them, and he is listening to Barada and Ashworth, because Erik Ten Hag is still in his job, and Erik Ten Hag is still going to get an opportunity to carry on and continue. So, yeah, I think he is listening to them. I think he's giving them the benefit of the doubt at the very least. I think he's entrusting in them, and he is listening to whatever arguments they are making. I just think that maybe at some point, if we don't see results improved, he may just pull the trigger, and say, we tried to do it your way. Things clearly haven't improved. We've gone into a worse situation, so now it's time that I make the executive decision. Lion saying the more he looks up Thomas Tuchel on the interweb, the more I warm to the idea of him being the manager. Is that weird? Not necessarily. I mean, as long as you're not, I guess, being influenced by opinions, to change your own opinion. I think if you're looking up like, I think if you're just looking up like information and you're formulating that opinion lines, I think I don't think that's weird. I think that's kind of normal. We're always constantly trying to get, new information and constantly trying to think in different ways and think in different aspects about things. I think it would be weird, maybe not to do that, because that's what people call closed-mindedness. Like when you're not open to being able to change your opinion, when you're not like, when even when like sometimes there's proof that you were wrong and you just kind of stick to your thing, whether that's being stubborn or closed-minded. I think I don't think it's weird. I think you're just open-minded. Maybe you weren't set on him, maybe you didn't like him for whatever reasons, but maybe you do a little bit more research, or a little bit more searching up and looking into like things that he's done in his past at other clubs or whatever, and maybe you change your mind. Forget the internet and the fact that people jump on people for changing opinions or changing their minds. You're allowed to do that, and I think it's a bunch of nonsense when people attack people for changing their opinion. I actually think that it takes certain individuals that I think it shows leadership and a sort of a strength to be able to be like, what, I said this one way, I thought this way, but now I think this way, and here's the reasons why. I think that's a pretty normal thing in my opinion. Axe is saying Thomas Tuchel has left most of his past clubs on the back door. The dude may have burnt too many bridges. He's using United as leverage. He needs Man United more than United needs him. Let's stay logical. I think that's also a fair point, Axe. I think that, and I did say that there is a possibility, because obviously, it was reported that United didn't make contact with him, and that all the news coming around Thomas Tuchel, other than the fact that apparently Sir Jim likes Thomas Tuchel, United, or anybody in United, including Sir Jim Ratcliffe, has not contacted Thomas Tuchel for the job. So, any news that came out about Thomas Tuchel pretty much, coming back involved to potentially take over is coming from his camp, and he could very well be interested, or he could very well just be using the name because he is at home and he does want a job. And like you said, he has burned some bridges. So there's some clubs that obviously he can't go to. Like, he's never going to go back to Bayern. And, he's never going to go back to PSG. He's clearly never going to go back to Chelsea. And then there's not any openings really at a club that he would obviously want to go to, because obviously he wants to go to a top club, a big club. He's not going to take a job at a club that's usually always finishing outside of, like, not in a European place. So he could be using our name to kind of incite that, oh, United are going in for him, and maybe if there was any interest in him, he was trying to get them to act on it so that he can get his job. I mean, that is always a possibility. That has happened before. Maybe not specifically with him, but with other people, certainly. And we always have to be worried because obviously, like we said before, Manchester United's name is big. And we do get used a lot for a lot of different reasons, clicks, interactions, all types of stuff. So, Lion saying, here's some food for thought. As we're heading into a relegation battle, I read Big Sam I read Big Sam is looking to get back into management. Oh, don't do that to us, Lions. That's almost as bad as Gareth Southgate and Graham Potter. Like, Jesus. I don't even want to think about that, Lions. Imagine we ended up getting Big Sam to play 1990s football and just kick it over the top and run after it or whatever, and booting the ball along. That would be misery. It would be misery. I don't have a favorite Japan kit, Rajat. I don't. The Lions just throwing out ridiculous names right now. Harry Redknapp, Jesus. No. Lyle says he loves Big Sam. Let's bring him in. Let's see what he can do with the big club. Jesus, no. We're not going down this path. Rajat said he would not mind Roberto De Zerbi in if he wasn't already gone to Marseille. Well, yeah, that ship has kind of sailed for now. Although I would be, to be fair, Rajat, if they really wanted Roberto De Zerbi at some point, right? If a managerial change was to come and they did want him, which I don't think they do because they would have went for him, and clearly they passed him up to keep Erik Ten Hag as well. I think I think we would be able to get him out of there. Obviously, we would have to pay, but obviously, I think if we told him, we want you to come, I think he would leave Marseille in 20 seconds to go to Manchester United because it's just such a different level. Even if we're in the mess that we are in, it's just two different statures and clubs. So, for sure, I think he could do it. Lions again, Martin O'Neill. You're bringing up all these guys from the past. Like, this is crazy. Martin O'Neill is a manager I always thought how would be at United, particularly when Fergie left. Yeah, I think at the time there was some discussion about it and there was some interest about it. So, to be fair, because I didn't read the whole comment, I just saw Martin O'Neill, so I thought you were carrying on from then. I wonder why he never got the job. I mean, I don't have any input on that because I don't really know. I wouldn't have a thought or an opinion as to why he never got the job. But yeah, I mean, I do remember when I was younger that, he was pretty decent, especially his time at Aston Villa. And there was some talk that, maybe he might take over one day. But clearly, that ship sailed and it never materialized. And also, Fergie was there. He was there, and his career kind of came to an end shortly after that. So he kind of got out of there. Roy Hudson, Gary O'Neill, ex Bournemouth, Watford coach. No, we need better. Lyle saying, all seriousness, Rude would take over for the rest of the season to give United better and a lot more options in the summer for a new manager. Only thing is that it's a long season still ahead. Yeah, listen, I think where we would sit would be Rude or it would be Tuchel because Tuchel is available and Tuchel is free. The only thing that would stop Tuchel is if they couldn't come to an agreement on the things that they obviously didn't come to an agreement when they did hold discussions with Tuchel. And maybe that's also why Erik Ten Hag did end up staying. Maybe if they did, we don't actually know. What if they did? What if they didn't have disagreements between Tuchel? Would they have gotten Tuchel in and let Erik Ten Hag go? Because again, apparently Sir Jim and Sir David Brailsford were the ones that made that decision. So, and if Sir Jim likes Tuchel and he's his number one pick. Maybe it was just so for the sole fact that they didn't agree and they didn't see eye to eye on each other on those differences. Therefore, as much as the gym wanted him, he wasn't going to budge on certain things, and Tuchel obviously didn't want to budge on certain things. Therefore, Tuchel became unavailable, so they decided to stick with Erik Ten Hag, because compared to the other ones, they didn't want those guys compared to Erik Ten Hag. So, it is that could also be a possibility as well. So, I mean, I don't know, but I think to your point, Lyle, that's where I was going with that. To your point, Lyle, it would either be Rude or Tuchel, because Tuchel is free, and then otherwise, if they can't come to an agreement, then I think it would be Rude, because I think Rude, from the reports that we got, Rude is well liked, by numerous amounts of people in the club. He is well liked by players. Apparently he's made an impression on the hierarchy, and he's made an impression on others in and around Manchester United. So Lion saying, maybe I'm old fashioned for two managers. What we need, heck, at least we would have more than one striker. Well, I love that formation. To me, it was the way to play. Of course, football has kind of moved on from that formation and kind of that style of play. And I don't think a 4-4-2 would work very well. I do miss the two striker thing, because a lot of people or a lot of teams, like, nobody really plays two strikers anymore. And for obvious reasons, because you get overloaded in the midfield and whatnot, and the tactics from other teams. And you do get exposed if you play a 4-4-2 against those tactics. So I do miss it. I thought it was elite. I really did. It really was my favorite. But I just, for today's style and football, it just wouldn't work. Unless you play some sort of like a 3-5-2 or something like that, or a 5-3-2, where you do have, that second striker. So, but a 4-4-2 I don't think would work anymore. And that's why we don't really see it. I mean, you see it every once in a while, but how good do those teams do? They don't tend to do well, or they're not serious in terms of being elite. Lyle saying Tuchel as an interim might work. Him and Rude could work. I mean, if they give it to Tuchel, I don't think they're gonna give it to him as an interim. I think Tuchel wouldn't accept interim. I think Tuchel would tell them, you're either hiring me or you're not. So if Tuchel was to come, I think it would be on a permanent basis immediately. And again, I think it's because he's available, he's free. We don't have to pay him out. We don't have to buy him out of a contract. So, if you're gonna sack Ten Hag and you have to pay 17 million, you would have to, they would probably look at Tuchel, and if they can't come to an agreement with Tuchel, then it would be Rude till the summer, and then that way, they can, maybe somebody leaves, mutual agreement, or we would be able to have at least some funds to spend towards buying out a manager if we do have to do that. So, and yeah, that's what I'm saying, Lines. I agree. Tuchel surely wouldn't come as an interim. Now, I don't think he would accept it. I think he would tell them, you're either hiring me full time or you're not hiring me. Like, I'm not accepting an interim. They look like they're going to stick with Ten Hag. For now, they are. I think so. I think, the silence from the media has been quite evident. And the lack of an update from INEOS, I think, is quite evident. That he's going to keep his job. And I think it was like Axe mentioned earlier in the show. I think, the media overhyped it a lot, way more than, what it actually was. And again, shame on them for doing that. I mean, they keep doing it to themselves, and I don't really understand, because you can report on Manchester United and not be a total clown show. And it's unfortunate, because there are certain journalists there that they are credible, and they do a good job, especially when it comes to like transfers and stuff like that, or when it doesn't necessarily involve this situation on Erik Ten Hag and his position, but every time it seems like it involves Erik Ten Hag and him losing his job, they seem to lose their damn mind. They seem to just go batshit crazy and start acting like like buffoons. Like they just they stop. It's like they don't they lose all self-control, and they like start foaming out of the mouth for whatever reason. Like, and I think part of it is because they really don't like Erik Ten Hag. Like, I think there's a lot of them, and I don't use this word lightly because I think it's 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 not a bad word, but I think it's a strong word to use because when you do, I think there's strong feelings. So, but I think I do believe that some of them, or a lot of them, they really do hate Erik Ten Hag. Like, they hate him. Like, not that they dislike him, not that they, don't really, they're not really warm to him. Like, they hate him. Like, they hate Erik Ten Hag. Like, there is a burning hate inside of them for Erik Ten Hag. Like, and they probably go to sleep and have dreams of him being sacked. Like, they hate him. They want him to literally fail. Like, and it's actually, it's just, it really is disgusting. Like, it is disgusting to treat anybody like that. Because where is the professionalism? Where is the professionalism from you? Like, why can't you just be professional about it and about him? You know, put your emotions. That's not your job as a journalist. Your job as a journalist is not supposed to involve your emotions in your reporting and the way you do your job. You're supposed to be basically, unbiased. If the truth is damning, you put the truth out. If the truth is encouraging, you put the truth out. You don't just make shit up and try to assassinate somebody at every chance you get because you hate the man. Like, that's not a job of a journalist. The job of a journalist is you're supposed to provide facts and evidence, regardless of whatever side you hold your opinion on. If you think Erik Ten Hag's a shit manager and you don't like him personally, regardless of if that's what you think and that's how you feel, you shouldn't be putting out shit that blows it up out of proportion and you have no substantial evidence to really back it because you hate the guy. You should be putting stuff out that is real or as close to the truth as possible, and you should be putting out stuff from credible sources. Because when they say sources, and I never like this because obviously they always play this game of sources, and the source could be, some dickhead that doesn't have anything to do with Manchester United, but they could claim him as a source, and you don't know who that person is, so you don't know how credible the source actually is. It could just be some nonsense from somebody. Axe is saying if the rat likes Tuchel so much, he should take Thomas Tuchel to his home. Then give Thomas Tuchel some of that bubonic plague of his. Lions saying bloody Guardiola has ruined it for us all. Yes, let's blame Guardiola. I'm okay with that. It's all Guardiola's fault that we can't play a damn 4-4-2 anymore. He's ruined everything. He's literally ruined everything. The sooner he retires and goes play golf or whatever the hell he's gonna do, the better. I think football will be go back to being a little bit more normal, I guess you could say, into what he shaped it into. He's ruined it all. He's ruined it all. I'm with Lions. He's ruined it all. Damn Guardiola. It's all his fault. What a bastard. What a bastard. Lyle saying, let's go 4-1-2-1-2 classic diamond. Ray saying, Ray is in here. How you doing, Ray? Ray saying, hey, everyone, I think stick with Erik Ten Hag for the next month, then make a decision then. Well, I think to kind of put a time stamp on it, I don't necessarily agree with Ray. I guess, where we stand now, and where I'm going to go forward with this is, let's just see what he does and what happens. I'm not really going to say, if he doesn't, let's look at the results in 2 weeks. Let's look at the results in a week. I think we just have to look at it game by game from now on. And then maybe you could kind of, say after a couple matches or something like that and really make a more formulated opinion, because it really is all about the results. It's all about the results. He has to get the results. And I think the reason why he's in this situation is because he hasn't gotten the results. If he got a couple more results, while some people would still be asking for his sack because they wanted his sack, in the summer, they wanted his sack maybe a year ago. So those people are obviously still wanting him to get sacked. But I think a lot of the people that were backing him and behind him, I don't think he would have lost as many. I think maybe he would have lost some still. I think that's plausible to say, but I don't think he would have lost as much as he has now, because we just would have been in a better position. And maybe while it's not, to the height of where we expected and wanted it to be, we certainly wouldn't be in 14th, because 14th is just ugly. It's ugly to say. It's ugly to look at. Um, and if we were closer up there, we'd be like, okay, we're in 7th, which is not great, but like, we're closer to that area. And there might be a little bit more positivity and a little bit more encouraging signs that you could kind of, back. But the problem is that everything's been so negative that it's quickly gone, really, really bad, really, really quickly. And I think, the concerns and of the fans, I think is still right. I think, everybody is correct to be concerned because it's been poor. And we don't know. We don't know if it is actually going to get better. It could stay the same, or it could get worse, or it could get better. So, I think concerns is okay to have because of what we've been shown so far. I mean, we're only going off of the proof that we have. The proof that we have is the performances we've seen and the results we've gotten. And if you base it off of that, yeah, I get the worry, I get the concerns, I get the anger, I get people being upset. I get it. It makes sense. Like it's not just because they're doing it just to do it. I think there is a reason for it. But at the same time, like I said in the beginning of the show, I do, if you want to be fair, it is still technically early in the season, and we're technically not far off of the top 4. So he can technically still turn it around. I don't see, there hasn't been signs that gives me hope and encouragement that that's going to happen in that aspect. But, and while I did say that I think that it would probably be a better move to sack him, and I do think that, he, from this point, I do think that he is going to get sacked. I don't think he's going to be able to turn this around. If he does, I mean, I'll be here for it, because that means that we didn't have to sack the manager, and we didn't have to really start over, which is something that I really didn't want to do originally, and I don't want to do. But I'm just kind of in this confused spot of I don't know what is the best direction at this period. I don't. It's I make up arguments in my head for both sides. I could see good for him staying. I could see good for him going. I kind of play out both scenarios in my head, and maybe I confuse myself a little bit, but it's not an easy situation. I think if it was an easy situation, I think, everybody would have the answers, and I don't think anybody really has the answers, because I think you might think you have the answers, but you can't really say for sure, because it can go in a couple different directions at this very moment. It's like you're at a road, and you're on one path, and then the road splits into 3, and there's 3 paths you can take. And which one is the best road? You don't really know until you walk down that road. And you might walk down one road and get halfway down the road and realized, fuck, we've gone down the wrong road, or this road was shit because, maybe the road's under construction, maybe, it's the longer path or something like that, or maybe the road is fucking closed and you can't continue down that area anymore. So Lyle saying I can get that though. For me, it's also a hate towards United. It certainly is a hate for United as well. Any manager of United who has a bad run will get the same treatment. Yeah, for sure. You know what? But they pick and choose as well. Like, look what they did to like Ali, for example. They didn't they didn't really do what they do to Ten Hag and per se Mourinho, because Mourinho's kind of in his own category because he kind of asks for it. It's always been part of his thing. You know what I mean? He's kind of he kind of has that switch where he goes from like the good guy to the bad guy, to the, and he does antagonize, and it's always been part of his style. So I kind of put him in his own little category. But if you look at how the media treated Solskjaer for a large period of time, and then look at how they treated Erik Ten Hag for his time here, it's clearly severely different. Like they like I don't think they didn't hate Solskjaer. They might have thought that he wasn't good. They might have thought that he was like out of his depth at times and shit like that. But they didn't like they didn't do things that they do to Ten Hag that they I mean, they didn't do things to Ali that they do to Ten Hag. And I think, like, you can see the clear indication there is that, like, they hate Erik Ten Hag. Like, they hate him. They hate him, like, on a personal level. And which is why they do what they do. But I do agree, Lines, that, like, I Lyle, that anybody that is a United, and it is a hate towards United as well. There is an aspect of that. I mean, we clearly know that. Like, they, everybody, and I said this before, anybody and everybody that's not pretty much a United fan, they hate us. They hate us. They've always hated us. They don't like us. I've experienced that in my life. There's people that watch fucking Serie A that aren't even involved in the Premier League. They don't even have, a team they don't support a team in the Premier League. They support Inter or AC Milan, and they talk shit to me. And they, and they've always done it. They've always done it. They don't like United for whatever reason it is. I don't really know, because I try, I never really like that. I feel like if you win, for example, like when I look at Inter, I don't, if Inter win the league 3-4 times in a row, or they dominate the Serie A, or whatever it is, I don't look at them and I'm like, fuck Inter. Like, I hate Inter because like, I look at them and I'm like, oh, I respect them for being good. That's all it is. Obviously, in the Premier League, we have rivals, so like, fuck Liverpool and City and etc. But like, from outside, like when I look at the Spanish league, I don't necessarily have a hate towards Barcelona, that period where they were so dominant and shit. And I don't have a dishate for Real Madrid. Like, Real Madrid kind of get the same thing. Like, if you're not a Real Madrid fan, they're very, very hated on. Because why? Because they win everything. You got to respect them. They win everything. Like, they do what they're supposed to do. They are champions. They are the best. Like, um. Lion saying, I think it's because he comes across as a potato in his press conferences. He is just he if he just showed some charisma and made sense, I believe the opinion of him would be different. And I do think that is could be part of it. And I've been saying this for a while. And obviously, we weren't around for his first season in charge. But I knew going into it when he came in, and I was like, this guy doesn't like the media. Like, he doesn't like the media. He doesn't like the news. He doesn't like to do press conferences. If he had a choice not to do them, he would clearly not do them. He doesn't want to speak to them. He doesn't respect most of them. He doesn't like talking to them. He doesn't like to give them information. Obviously, he's required to do it, so he has to do it. It comes with part of the job. But he doesn't want to talk to them. He thinks it's a waste of time. He thinks, and I think rightfully so, a lot of the questions they ask him are stupid and nonsensical, and idiotic. So I always understood that about him. I always knew prior to even him being here day one that I was like, he's not going to give much in his press conferences. He's not going to try and win them over because he doesn't like them. You know what I mean? And since he doesn't like them, it does breed grounds for the reason why they might actually personally hate him more than some other managers, because he clearly doesn't respect them. Barring, maybe a couple outlets, like a Dutch outlet or something like that, and maybe one or two. But the majority, he doesn't respect them, and he doesn't want to talk to them, and he doesn't like them. So, it makes sense. It does make sense in that aspect. Lyle saying, look at Spurs, they're in the same boat as us, but I haven't heard anything about Ange getting the sack. Well, I mean, not in terms of that Andrew's going to get the sack, but they were getting criticized. And there was a little bit of pressure building up on them before they played us, and they got that result against us, and that kind of pushed them into a more positive spot. Obviously, now they ended up losing to to Brighton when they were up 2-0. So, maybe it's pushed them a little bit back down. But yeah, they are in the same boat as us. But again, like nobody's going to give a shit as much about Spurs as they do about United. But that performance and that result that they did against us obviously helped him and Spurs out, because it and this is why I keep putting the emphasis on results, because that was positivity. It was positive that the performance, from their end was good. They were away from home and they completely ripped us apart. So, it pushed them to a spot where the negativity kind of dissipates, like it kind of evaporates. And that's the problem that we are suffering right now. And this is why I'm saying, like, if he wants to actually have a chance, and if he actually, like some of you are asking for, at least to a certain month or for the rest of the season, he needs to get results. Because, even me, I will go back on his side in terms of belief that maybe, he could do something. Because I still think that, obviously he can win trophies. He's done it. So I think he can win things. But at this current moment, I can't see how he's going to improve it enough to pull himself out, which is why I think he's doomed to fail at some point. But if he manages to do it, I can buy back in. I can, and I will, because it'll just be it's logical. Like, he has to give himself an opportunity. He has to give me and other people something to buy back into. And right now, there's nothing to really buy into other than putting just hope and faith in. But I'm not willing to do that, because I feel like I've been doing it for quite some time anyway. And the period that we've hit, I just don't. I need to see something more. I need to see something more positive. I need to see something more encouraging. Before I'm going to, put myself in that position once again. Ray's saying, I think we spent too much money in players and coaches to throw it out after 6 games. I mean, that is another fair point, and I think that's one of the reasons why Dan Ashworth and Omar Barada don't want to sack him. I mean, we've talked about this. They really have backed him, and I think that's something that we haven't really seen. We haven't really seen this yet in a United manager's 3rd season post Fergie. We haven't really seen them. Usually it goes, we back the shit out of the manager 1st season. The 2nd season, we half-ass back the manager, which leads to a shaky 2nd season. And then when you get to the 3rd season in the summer, we don't really back them at all, which leads to the 3rd season completely just crumbling, because we didn't improve in aspects in terms of getting in more players for the manager, because they're worried that they're going to have to sack him. And then since they didn't back him, they end up having to sack him because we didn't improve while other teams did. And you can't survive in that way, and you're always going to do worse. And I think this case is the first time that in that case it is different, because he's been backed. He has been backed. I think, they did get players in for him. I think they did a good job on the recruitment. I think a lot of people were in agreement with that. I think everybody was happy with the players we got. I think, for the majority, I think maybe people would have liked 1 or 2 more players in certain positions, and maybe they would have changed 1 or 2 of the aspects. But I don't think anybody can say that the window was bad. I think everybody pretty much says that the window was good. We also bring in, a brand new coaching staff for him. and they also gave him the benefit of the doubt in fact that they gave him a contract extension for another year on top of it or whatever it was. So yeah, they you know, they do want it to come good because they have invested in him. So you know, we do, I guess, have to just see how it goes, you know, going forward, because we haven't actually really been in this position where the manager has actually been backed going into the third season, and we all know that it always falls apart in the third season. So I think in that aspect it's kind of interesting to see if it actually is going to crash and burn like it usually does, or are we just in a very, you know, have we just started very slow and very poor, and you know, we're gonna catch a little bit of form and get some good results and start having a better season going forward, you know, some point soon. Um, Now it could start against Brentford. You know, if he's given the opportunity, I am saying, you know, not based off of how we're playing. I'm just saying that there is a chance it can start at Brentford. It can. I don't know if it's going to. We gotta wait and see, and you know, see how the match unfolds, and then we could talk about it a little bit more from that aspect. But it can start from Brentford, because if we go play Brentford and we win 3-0 somehow, right? Then, you know, it can start from there, and you can go forward after that. And then, you know, you go into Fenerbahce, and if you get a result at Fenerbahce, even if it's like a 2-1 or a 1-0, you know, for me, right now, the most important part is I don't really care what the scoreline is, other than the fact that we have more goals than the other team and we get the 3 points. Like, I just want the W's. I just want the 3 points. And then we can try and sort out the other aspects in terms of, you know, playing better. But at this moment in time, the situation we're in, I just want the 3 points. I just want the 3 points, and I just want the win. I want it for the club. It's not really for Erik Ten Hag. It's for the club, because I want the club to do good. But at the same time, since Erik Ten Hag is the manager, he gets it as well, which means that, you know, he'll be in a better situation. And if he succeeds, that means United succeed. So, you know, I just want the club to do good. It's not really about Ten Hag at this point. It's just that he's in charge and he needs to get the results so that the club can be in the position, or a better position than what it is now. Because I want the club to succeed in some manner. I want to be back in the Champions League next season. I want to be, you know, in top 4. I want to win another trophy somewhere, one way or another. And I don't want it to be the Carabao Cup. I'll take the Carabao Cup, but I don't want it to necessarily be the Carabao Cup. I really want it to be the Europa League. I'll take an FA Cup in 4th, you know, or something like that. Or I'll take a Carabao Cup in 4th, something like that. Ray's saying, give him till next international break. We have some easy fixtures than we had so far. And I think you could maybe, you know, maybe you can say that. But I would say I wouldn't really put a timeline on it, Ray. I wouldn't put like a specific time. I wouldn't say give him till this date or give him till this, you know, fixture. I think you just have to take it game by game, because, you know, you can't say give him till the next international break, because what happens if you go in the next 4 matches and we don't win a single match? Then, you know, you would really have to sack him. So we have to go match by match. And I think if you go match by match and we start getting the results, then I think it can also go the other way. Then it's like, well, you don't really have to give him till the international break. You can just keep going, because we're on good form and we're performing good. And now we're getting results and we're getting 3 points. So I don't think you actually have to put a certain time stamp on it. I think we just have to base it off of the results. And I think it's, if he starts getting results and we start improving, you know, even if we get a win and a draw, or we get like 2 wins and a draw out of the next 3 matches, or a win and 2 draws, I mean, it's still better than our current form. You know, so he's got to get a couple wins under his belt. And then we'll see where it goes from there. the UEL is saving Spurs at the moment. Many other coaches are in similar boats, but the media obviously don't talk much because not many clubs can be bigger than Manchester United. Lions saying Ange just has something, you can see it when he speaks. He's got that aura, Lions. He's got that aura. He's got that aura. That's what that is. That word. That's something. It's aura. It's an inside joke. Giovanni Figueroa is in here. Giovanni Figueroa saying, I'm sorry, but Ten Hag deserves all the hate he gets. He then continues on to say he is toxic, arrogant, isn't fair with his players, plays favorites, and is not willing to listen to others. And yeah, I mean, there has been arguments about that. And I guess, you know, it is personal. It is, listen, the toxic thing is a personal thing because I think there's many things that some people consider toxic. There's other things that people don't consider toxic. You know, I kind of disagree with you that he's toxic. Because for me, you have to be a real special kind of asshole to be toxic. I'm not one of those people that, and I'm not saying you are, but I'm just saying the way I view things. You really have to be some sort of a wicked type of person for me to consider you and say that you are toxic. I don't really get pushed a lot by that. I'm not too sensitive on that. There are other people out in the world that, you know, even if there are people in the world that even if the fact of like if you call somebody an idiot, they will call you toxic. I kind of have a tougher skin than that. I've grown up with having a tougher skin in that area. I mean, my childhood was I think my childhood was pretty toxic in terms of, you know, the people I grew up with. Like I'm talking about peers in school and stuff like that. And the way people acted. I think you know, if people could, you know, kind of get a roundup of how that was, I think most people would say that it was toxic. So maybe because I kind of grew up in that environment and I had to deal with it a lot of this shit doesn't bother me, and I don't see it as toxic because I've seen much worse stuff said about people, and I've seen people do a lot worse stuff than some of the things. So I think the toxic aspect really comes down to a personal thing. I personally don't believe that he's toxic. But you know, you can make an argument for the fact that, you know, he does, at least from the media standpoint, and even maybe from fans, that he does get hate based off of certain things that he does. I'm a little bit more, I mean, here's one of the things as an example, right? A lot of people, they don't like his press conferences. A lot of people call him out for being a liar. A lot of people, you know, hate him for it. They don't like the way he does it. They don't like the way, you know, they call him out for putting out lies. Now, I sort of accept it, and it doesn't bother me because I always had the mindset that I already knew that he was going to do that because, like I said, he doesn't like the media. He doesn't want to speak to them. He doesn't want to do press conferences. So prior to him already taking the job, I was already in the mindset that this guy is basically going to go sit at press conferences and he's going to say a bunch of bullshit. And I don't take it personally to me. I don't take it as like he's lying to the fans. I just view it as he doesn't give a shit about the media to give them anything substantial, and he will lie to their face, and he will just say shit just to say shit because he's required to be there. And I do understand if people don't like that. I get that, and you're allowed to, you know, not like that. But just for me on a personal level, it doesn't bother me because I know what it is and I accept it for what it is. You know, and I have a friend that's a Porto fan, and he says a similar thing, and he doesn't like that in his managers. So he doesn't like it that, you know, that he does it. He takes it against him, and you know, he's told me, he's like, you know, if a manager at Porto did what he did, it was like I would be totally against him. Like he's like, I don't want that. He's like I don't want the manager going out and making all these lies. And I tried to explain to him, well, it's pretty much because he does it because of the media. And he's like, yeah, but even so, it doesn't look good. He was like, he's going to piss off the fans. And I was like, no, I get that. But I was like, I accept it for what it is. You know? So, and, you know, I don't know about if he isn't fair with the players, and he plays favorites. Like, let me tell you something, Giovanni. Any manager that you get, they all have favorites. Every single one of them. You cannot go and find me a manager that does not have a favorite and that does not play them over a certain other player. Every single manager has favorites. So this favorite argument, I never buy it. Now, while it still is a problem, it happens everywhere. Every manager has a favorite, and every manager plays some player that why the fans don't understand why they like them. Even if you look at United, and every manager prior to Erik Ten Hag, they've all had favorites. Even Sir Alex Ferguson had favorites. So, I don't really buy that. Now, they're not willing to listen to others, I think, is a good point, because he is stubborn, and we do know he's stubborn, and I think that's a crutch. I think that does hurt him, and I think that does not do him favors. And I think that does put him in a worse position. But yeah, I think it was still good comments, and I think at least you put out some reasons for why you think that. So I respect it. Even though I do disagree with it. For the most part, but still, Lyle even saying Erik Ten Hag doesn't help himself in front of the media, and he doesn't, and Johnny says his press conferences are horrible, and they are, I'm not going to sit here and say they're great. I think they are. I think they're pretty boring, and I think they're not really, while you can cover them, even we've covered them, and when I cover them, we kind of just gloss over them, and we don't really get into a discussion about them because we know what it is. It's a lot of PR bullshit, and that's what it is. And, if that bothers you and you dislike it, you're allowed to dislike it because you're a fan and you have that opinion. You know what I mean? You're allowed to dislike it and be like, I don't want this shit from the manager. Why does he do this? That's fine. I just hold the value of that. I've already accepted what it is, and it is, and for me, there's other bigger problems than that, that I focus on. So, Axe saying, yeah, there are arguments for both alternatives. However, sacking him now is much more expensive than giving him more time. I mean, in terms of squad building, not just money. Lyle saying Ollie is the nice guy, babyface of United, always smiling. He was like a cute kid that nobody wanted to hurt. Yeah, when Fergie left Aberdeen, they kept on winning for a few seasons until the team just got old. I still don't understand why it went to shit instantly when he left United. You know why? You know why it went to shit instantly when he left United? Because you have to, and I think the evidence is there, and you could kind of look it up, Lions. Why it went to shit at United instantly is because as soon as Sir Alex Ferguson stepped out of the door, we ripped everything apart. I think, I don't know what happened at Aberdeen, but my best guess would be that they didn't do what we did. We ripped everything apart. Sir Alex left, David Gill left, all of the people that were there with Ferguson for a long time and helped him create what he created, they left or got sacked or got replaced. And the club itself basically went from the ethos and what he built to starting going down a commercial path. And that also came from the new CEO, which was Richard Arnold, and not Richard Arnold, Ed Woodward. I'm sorry, I always get them mixed up. They're almost like the same fucking person to me. I mean, that's how bad they were. They were literally basically the same. So, Ed Woodward, that's why it all went to shit so quickly, because we had the blueprint. We had the blueprint. The blueprint was there. And what we did was, instead of getting somebody in and, just kind of adjusting the blueprint slightly to, make improvements where needed be, because the squad was kind of old and the squad didn't need to get improved. We took the blueprint, we lit it on fire, we then fucking, stepped on it, then threw it in fucking water or whatever, and then flushed down the toilet or whatever. We completely threw it out the window instantly, instead of using the blueprint that we had, because we still had the blueprint. We still had the top model. There was nothing really wrong with it. It just, the squad was sort of old, and the squad needed to be rejuvenized like he did for so many seasons. And instead of doing that, we threw everything out. We got David Moyes in as a manager with all these other people and people that David Moyes wanted. And instead of continuing on, from that point, we almost started brand new, and obviously the brand new plan was dog shit And that's why it fell apart. And as the years gone on, we got further and further away from that. And then we also got further away from reality. And we've ended up where we've ended up because we've just been lost for so many years. And now, you know, it's been 11 years. You can't just be like, well, we're going to go back to Sir Alex's blueprint now, because Sir Alex's blueprint is outdated for today's time. And we've veered so far off of it that, you know, we could have kept it and just updated it as the times went on, and maybe we could have still had a small bit of it while it being modern for today's game. But because we ripped it up and threw it out immediately, there's no way you're going to go get it back and implement it and change it to fit today's times. You have to come up with one that mirrors what the best teams, you know, like City or Pool or fucking Real Madrid, or even Bayern Munich, you know, what they've been doing. You kind of have to mirror something like that, create it, you know, in a united way, I guess, and go from there. So, Giovanni asking, what is he building though? He is only making it worse by staying. And very well so. Because, you know, Giovanni, I think you might, I don't know how long you've been in here for, but, you know, I was Ten Hag in. I was Ten Hag, you know, I wanted Ten Hag to get this season. I rightfully stood by Erik Ten Hag in the summer. And I was Ten Hag in up about until a couple matches ago. And I'm not necessarily Ten Hag out. I'm more just of like the fact that I think that he won't survive it. You know, I just don't think he's gonna get through it. And I do carry some of that sentiment that, you know, it can definitely become worse by him staying. And I did say a couple days ago that I think, you know, a change would help based off of what we're seeing. But I don't think you can you know, you can be confident that, you know, it would make it worse. It's going to make it worse by him staying, but it can't be 100% because technically he can still turn it around mathematically and all that stuff. He still can turn the season around. He can, you know, start getting results somewhere, and we can start to improve in aspects. Now, I don't see it based off what we've seen so far, and I don't think it's likely to happen, but I can't 100% say that it's not possible because I think that it can happen. I think there's a chance for it. How big of a chance, I don't know. 10%, 20%, 30%. I can't really say that aspect, but I think there is definitely a chance, especially because we're still very early in the season. Do I think it's likely going to happen at this moment? No, because it hasn't given me anything for me to come up with that conclusion. So, Axe is saying, was 90s United really that arrogant? In what way? Vanessa Roy does not want to take up the job as interim head coach of Erik Ten Hag. What is your opinion? Well, that's not what I read. Where'd you see that, Rajat? Who reported that? Because that's not what I've been reading. I don't think I really read that. I think they kind of just saying that he will take it. And I'm sure if they offer it to him, I think he might have concerns. I did read something like that he has a concern that, or he might be a little bit reluctant because, you know, he might be seen as he stabbed Ten Hag in the back. But I think that's a bunch. I think that update is a bunch of nonsense because I don't see how anybody would be able to view. They could view it in that aspect. Giovanni saying, I disagree. They need to ask difficult questions, and he is not able to handle them. I don't think they ask him difficult questions, though. I don't think they do. I think they ask him shit questions. I really do. I don't think they ask him good questions. I don't think they ever ask him good questions. They don't ask him good questions. They never ask Solskjaer good questions. They never asked Mourinho good questions. The majority of the time, the journalists in the press conferences, they ask him shit questions. They ask him questions that fans don't give a fuck about the answer to. Like, if you put in a bunch of fans in there, they would none of the fans would ask any of the questions that the journalists ask. So like I don't think they I don't think they can ask him difficult questions because they do, like I don't think they do. I think they might need to. And I think there's definitely difficult questions out there, but I think there's better questions. One of the questions I would ask him, which they don't want to ask, is what is with Harry Amos and why do you refuse, you know, just as an example, what's with Harry Amos and why do you refuse to not call him up when you clearly don't have a left back and the team is imbalanced? Instead of fucking asking 7 questions about Harry Maguire like they usually do because Harry Maguire's English. And nothing against Harry Maguire. It's not an attack on Harry Maguire. I just think it's fucking nonsense when the media go and ask him the same 7 questions about one player. Meanwhile, there's so many other pressing matters and issues. You know, why don't you ask him a question about the system? Why don't you ask him a question about, you know, substitutions and why and the rotation? They don't ask him these questions. They don't. They ask him bullshit nonsensical questions that if I was the manager, I wouldn't want to fucking answer them either. I wouldn't answer them. And I would pretty much give him go fuck yourself answer. I would. Because I think they're idiotic and I think they're a waste of time and I think it's a bunch of nonsense. But yeah, Axe is saying his childhood in Malta though. No, childhood was in New York. Childhood was in New York. I was born in America. The chat always it always skips me. So if I miss some things, I'm sorry. Rajat saying he doesn't understand English too well. Not sure what the problem is. Don't completely know. I mean, there is that little bit of a barrier. You do see, you know, the way he does respond in his English. It sometimes doesn't translate very well, even though, you know, he does speak it decently well, but it just doesn't come off. Sometimes in certain aspects in his answers, it doesn't come off sounding the best with the words he chooses. So I think there is that barrier as well, and as well as, you know, vice versa, when they do ask him questions, he might not fully be understanding to the best degree in the manner in the question that they're asking him. So yeah, there is that barrier as well, but you know, Giovanni saying, one instance of that favoritism in his treatment of Sancho, who was only defending himself, versus how Rashford went out to party twice and no real consequences were placed. Well, to my point, to that point, I'm sorry for that camera shake. I hit the desk. To that point, Giovanni, I think there are, and you might not like this answer, or you might not like this at all, but I think there is clear differences between Marcus Rashford and Jadon Sancho. I think there's differences in their attitude. I think there's differences in their work ethic. I think there's differences in their stature in the club. And therefore, there will be differences in the way things are handled between them. You know, while Marcus Rashford did get in trouble for partying, while Marcus Rashford was late for a meeting one time and he did get dropped for the Wolves game in that second season, or was it his first season? Clearly, Jadon Sancho has issues because it's been reported in the past with him showing up to training and being proper in that way. And not for nothing, you know, while Erik Ten Hag might have issues with players, and he does have a lot of, you know, bust ups with players, I have no sympathy for Jadon Sancho because I don't care, you know, if Jadon Sancho was right and Erik Ten Hag was wrong. As a Manchester United player, you do not do what he did. I don't respect him for what he did. I don't respect the fact that he went on social media, put up a fucking post on social media going against the manager publicly, and then left it pinned to his social media for over a week. You know, I don't respect that. So I have no sympathy for Jadon Sancho. I don't care about Jadon Sancho, and I don't care about what happened between him and Jadon Sancho. I don't. Because for me, Jadon Sancho didn't do anything at Manchester United anyway. So, you know, it's not like he was like Ronaldo 2.0, and then they got into a bust up and Sancho has left the club. Sancho was piss poor at United anyway. You know, and Right now, he's doing good at Chelsea. I expected him to do good at Chelsea. You know why? Because it got him off his lazy ass to start performing, because he has something to prove now. Now he has a little bit of fire up his ass, but let's see what he's doing at Chelsea in a season or two. Let's see how he's doing. And another thing about that is that, you know what? Sometimes some players just aren't a fit for a certain club. And clearly, Jadon had problems. Jadon had to go on a 3-month hiatus for whatever personal reason, right? And I don't want to hit him on that aspect, right? Because, that's a personal reason. But clearly, he had some issues. Whether it was mental issues or whatever it was that he was dealing with, he clearly had to go away for 3 months. He clearly was having a hard time dealing with being at Manchester United. So, and Erik Ten Hag did help him in that moment. A lot of people seem to forget that. Erik Ten Hag supported him through that moment. So whatever happened out of that, Jadon is no saint in that situation. And, I get pissed off at this conversation because it's like, I'm not supporting a player over the manager. Never, ever. I don't give a fuck who it is. I'm not supporting a player ever over a manager. And I'm not supporting a player over the club. And I don't think Jadon was good to the club. I think he embarrassed the club, regardless of if Erik Ten Hag lied about him or not. Regardless of if Erik Ten Hag treated him right or wrong. I'm sure there are other players that might not be happy with Erik Ten Hag. But you know what? I respect him for not acting like immature children and embarrassing the club, because that was embarrassing. That was an embarrassing period for the club, that a player came out against the manager, made that statement, and made a huge fucking story about it. So he chose to go down that path, and now he can stay at Chelsea. I don't want to see him in a United shirt ever again. But you're also saying Anthony was played over and over and was given time, but Sancho and Ronaldo never got that time and trust, and now are performing better in their new teams. I mean, but there's different factors to that. And Anthony, he did trust in Anthony, but where's Anthony now? I think he's I don't think he's necessarily unfair. I don't. I really don't, Giovanni. I don't, because if he was unfair, Anthony would still be starting every match. And he's not. And Anthony is his signing, and Anthony is his boy from Ajax. And he signed him, and he wanted him to do good. I think what Erik Ten Hag does is he gives extended periods of trust to players, but I think you also have to earn that. And I think clearly he gave it to Anthony. Anthony didn't perform, and now he's all the way at the bottom of the list, and he has to work his way back in. But yeah, I mean, Anthony was barely getting minutes. Anthony barely was getting played up to a certain point. Now he's coming back into the fold a little bit, because you kind of need him to get some minutes and come back into the fold. But I mean, if it was completely unfair, Anthony would be starting over Garnacho and Diallo still right now, and he's not. He's dropped Lisandro Martinez. He dropped Matthijs de Ligt. So, I think that whole situation is, you only see what happens in the games. A lot of people say that Erik Ten Hag was a liar about Jadon Sancho, but how the fuck do you know that? How do you know? You're not there in training. You're not the manager. You don't know what happened in that situation. What if Sancho really was an asshole? What if the guy was constantly showing up late? What if he was constantly performing like shit in training? How would you blame the manager for doing what he did? If that is actually the case, you can't really say. You can't really say. All I know is that whenever I seen Jadon Sancho play for Manchester United, it wasn't anything special, and it wasn't anything good. And the same for Anthony. Now Anthony got his chances, but now Anthony is on the bottom of the list. So I think to a certain point it's pretty fair. I think the one that you would argue the most out of anything would be probably Marcus Rashford. Because Marcus Rashford has gotten the most amount of opportunities, and he's stuck with him. And everybody was asking for Marcus to be everybody was asking for Marcus to be dropped, and he refused to drop Marcus, right? And another one in more recent times is Bruno Fernandes. But again, you know, as a manager, you kind of have to make the decision of, well, those are supposed to be our top two players. Now, while it's infuriating because they're playing like shit, and I do agree that at some point you kind of have to drop them, but maybe he goes down the path of, I need these guys to come good because they are important to the team and the system. And I can't really drop them. But I've always said, you know, if you're not willing to drop them, you at least have to substitute them out if they're having a shit game. If you try to get them to push through not playing good, you have to at least sub them out. I think that's where I kind of draw the line. Like, you can't just keep them in there for 90 minutes if they're playing like garbage. You have to sub them out at least, the very least, if you're not willing to drop them. If you can't drop Bruno because he's your captain and you make that decision, fine. That's your decision. But you have to sub him out if he's playing like dog shit. The same goes for Marcus. The same goes for any player, really. And Giovanni saying, you know, that's his point, that why did Ten Hag call him out like that in the media first? Why not in private? That goes both ways. Well, I've seen people say that, and maybe he did. Listen, we don't know. Nobody knows the full story. I think we know half of the story because of, you know, whatever's reported. But, you know, the only people that know the full story is Erik Ten Hag and Jadon Sancho and maybe a couple of the other players or people inside of the club. I don't think we've ever gotten the real full story of exactly what happened. I think Ten Hag was just being honest as to why he to me, that situation was, I think it would be complete. I don't think Ten Hag lied when he said that about Sancho. And Sancho pretty much came out and said that he lied about it. And I don't think it was ever a lie. And a lot of people took Sancho's side over Ten Hag because they said Ten Hag is a liar and he's lying about Sancho. But I would find it weird for a manager to come out and say that about a player and lie about a player in that manner. I think he could have lied and said Jadon has an injury, or Jadon has a knock, or Jadon has this and that. But Jadon could have reacted in the same way, right? Because he was asked a question in the media, right? So Ten Hag, I think Ten Hag in that instant told the truth. And I think, unfortunately, it turned into a giant media shitstorm that he didn't think was going to be a problem. Like, I don't think he anticipated that to blow up in the manner that it did. I think he told the truth. I think he wasn't happy with the performances from Jadon Sancho in training, and therefore that's why he left him out of the squad. And maybe he had, you know, maybe he was right. Maybe Jadon Sancho was really shit in training during that period, and that's why he didn't put him in the squad. I think he answered it truthfully, and I think because he answered it truthfully, it turned into that shitstorm. Now, he could have made up a lie. He could have said, well, he has a knock. He wasn't fit, so we had to leave him out. But if he did that, Jadon still could have responded in the way that he did. And then Erik still would have been fucked because they would have been like, well, now he lied about Jadon not being fit enough. So the whole situation was a bad situation. It was a bad situation, and it's nonsense because you don't need that from players. And that's what I'm saying. Like, and for me, even so, and even if you're Jadon and you're pissed off the manager has said that, right? What really blew it up into a proportion was Jadon Sancho responded publicly, because that would have died. It would have died. They would have made a big deal about it for that day or the day after, right? It would have died. But the fact that he responded publicly and then left it there, he turned it into a saga, which is why I don't respect him in any way, because I wouldn't have handled it like that. Even if the manager said something about me that was false, even if the manager made up a lie and said it to the media, and now people are talking badly about me, I'm not going to social media to make the post. You know where I'm going? To his fucking office. And I'm knocking on his door, and I'm going to confront him to his face. And I'll call him whatever I need to call him in that moment. I'll call him an asshole. I'll call him a dickhead. You know, whatever it is. I'll shout in his face if I got to. But I'm going to his office. I'm going to him directly. I'm going to be like, but what the fuck did you say that for? I'm not going to social media to put up a post to try and win social media over, because I don't give a shit about social media. Social media is a bunch of bullshit. But clearly Jadon Sancho he cared more about winning opinions of the public over his spot at Manchester United, because he ran directly to social media to try and win back over his appeal, because he cared more about his brand than he did about his status at United. And that's why he went to social media. He went to social media because he was upset with now that the fact the media are questioning, you know, his training efficacy and all that stuff, and people are attacking his character as a player, and he wanted to win them back over, so he went out and called the manager a liar. You know, so it was a whole bunch of nonsense. I'm happy he's gone. The fucking lines. Erik is on his rant mode. LOL, let the man cook. I do get into my rant modes. I do. Let me just check the news, and then we'll see. Yeah, just some things that piss me off. And I'm not attacking Giovanni personally. I get heated about the topic because that was one of the things that pissed me off the most. And yeah, we're gonna move on from that. But you know, I just situations like that and plays like that, it really gets under my skin. It really does. I can't stand them because you just don't you just don't represent United. You don't, and you will never be a United player in my eyes for acting in that manner. Yeah, and I don't want to see people like that ever in the kit or represent our club. So it does get under my so Harry Maguire has apparently made a post because apparently one of his former Sheffield United teammates has tragically passed away. George Baldock has tragically passed away. So Harry Maguire has put up a post sharing his thoughts on the tragic passing of his former Sheffield United teammate. I don't know what happened there. Fabrizio has put up an update saying tragic news as George Baldock has sadly passed away at the age of 31. I mean, that's just sad. The guy was only a year older than me. That's so young. Baldock was playing for Panathinaikos in Greece after several years in England. I don't know how he's passed away, but that's extremely sad. You never like to hear those stories. That's always just awful. And I'm sorry for him and his family. But that's just terrible. Absolutely terrible. Yeah, thank you, Giovanni. I appreciate that, and I'm with you on that as well. I like discussing things as well. So you know, while anybody might give an opinion or something, and we may disagree, I like the fact that you know, and this is what I love. I like the fact that we could do it at least you know in a respectful way. And I never take offense. Like you know, if somebody disagrees with me on something, I'm not going to be offended and hate anybody for it if you think one way or the other, as long as it's respectful and everybody gives like decent viewpoints or whatever. I always I love it. That's why I created this channel, because I love having interactions with people like that, and I like to actually have real discussions. So you know, while you know we might not agree on certain stuff or we might disagree, you know, I'm here for it. So yeah, respect to you as well, because you know you did keep it, you know, respectful, and you did make good points as well. So and you do hold your opinion. You know, so yeah, that's what it is. So big up to yourself as well. For sure. Um, from now on, it will be he who shall not be named. Harry Potter reference. I love Harry Potter, by the way. I'm a big Harry Potter fan. Harry Potter, Star Wars, Dragon Ball Z or Dragon Ball in general. I'm huge fans of all those shows. So yeah. Mr. Labman is in here saying if Chelsea ends 16 or higher, then we have Sancho back. Sadly, No, it's the other way around. Mr. Labman. It's the other way around. If they finish lower, not higher. If they finish 16th or lower, and it might be 14 or something. Um and not 16, but it's lower. It's lower. If they finish lower, if they finish above, then he's staying at Chelsea. So yeah, Chelsea go and have the greatest season ever. Yeah, you meant lower. Yeah. It's all right. It's all right. Don't worry. Yeah, Chelsea, go have the best season you ever had. Go, please. You know. Lions is saying Dragon Ball is his crack. Me too. I was actually just rewatching some of it because they just came out with a new video game, and the newer series of it is actually coming out in about I think some 10 something days. So I kind of just got back into it. So I'm rewatching Dragon Ball, and then I'm gonna go watch Dragon Ball Z, and then I'm gonna go watch Dragon Ball Super and stuff like that. So yeah. And on the current state of Star Wars, man, so sad, but we shall not talk about that. Yeah, I mean, The Mandalorian is good, but I think they're screwing it up because they've decided they want to make a movie and they've interrupted the seasons. So we're not going to get that for until after that. Um, and I really think the ending of the last trilogy, I think the first movie of the second trilogy was good. I think they really screwed up the trilogy in that second one. I never understood why they got a different director. And then a lot of people hated the third one, and I didn't really hate it. I mean, maybe because I'm a softie and I just liked the ending to the closure to the story. I know a lot of people are, diehards and they dissect every single piece of it. I'm not really like that. I kind of just try to take it and enjoy it for what it is. As long as it's decent. But yeah, yeah. And there's other reasons for that, but it's more it's for the downfall of Star Wars, but it's more of a political thing, and we're not going to talk politics, so I'm not going to mention it. Boondocks is absolutely hilarious and great. We do not talk about Acolyte. I didn't even see it. But I heard that it wasn't good, and it got canceled, right? If I'm not mistaken, so I didn't even bother because I was like, well, if they canceled it, so yeah, but let me just check the rest of the news. So injury latest, if we want to stay updated on the injury latest, Alejandro Garnacho has a minor issue, so clearly just precautionary. So he's not part of the internationals. Which I'm here for. Get him some extra rest and have him ready to go for Brentford because we need him. Kobe Mainu, Harry Maguire, Mason Mount, and Harry Maguire are expected to be out for a few weeks, but it could be sooner depending on the rehab. So hopefully, and we have to protect Mainu because he's young, and I don't want his growth to be subsided by injuries. Out of, and we have to protect all our players, but especially Mainu because he's young and he does have the high potential. And we really do have to watch out for him. I don't want him to become one of those players where he never hits the heights of his potential because we've fucked him up with injuries. So please, United, please just take care of the damn kid. Whatever you got to do. If he has to miss Brentford, I'd rather him miss Brentford than him, get messed up from injuries. And Mason Mount just, I mean, I don't know what to say about the guy anymore. He's like paper mache. The guy can't sustain a run of 3 games. It's crazy, and I don't know what they got to do. Wrap him in fucking bubble wrap or something. I don't know. The guy just gets an injury, his head. He gets an injury to his leg. He gets an injury to his ankle. He gets an injury to his thigh. He gets I don't know what to do with Mason Mount anymore, and I feel bad sort of because I don't even think he's a bad player. Like, it's not like, like, oh, he's shit, so whatever. I think he has value to add to the squad, and I think we could definitely use him. But the guy can't stay fit. So I don't know what to say and think about him really anymore, other than like, what did we look at that we thought it was a good idea to pay what was it, 60 million for him while he was injured, while after he had surgery. I mean, what were we doing? What were we doing? Because unfortunately, and I don't think it's ability wise, I think it's just fitness wise, it's going to look like, or it's starting to look like, or it may already very well be, that he was a terrible buy. So yeah, I don't know, dude. I don't. Mazawari is being treated and assessed, and hopefully nothing too serious. There was an update somewhere about Diallo, because apparently Diallo has returned to Manchester. He's also not going to be part of internationals. Now I don't know if he's I don't know if it's precautionary as well, but he went on the internationals and he is now leaving and he is not going to play. So him as well. So we do have quite of a slightly concerning slight injury concerns that are seem to be minor, but we have to keep an eye out on it and make sure that it doesn't turn into something much worse. Because there are actually some important players in there as well. And they yeah. I'm trying to find the news on Diallo just so I could give it to you as accurate as possible, because it did come out somewhere early in the day. And this is oh, Ahmad has withdrawn from the Ivory Coast squad due to illness. Ahmad Diallo has returned to Manchester after missing Ivory Coast matches. So it's illness. It's not an injury. I thought it was an injury, and that's why I went to go look at it to make sure that it was accurate. So he's not injured. It is illness. So while we do wish him to get well, and get better, that's less concerning, because I'm sure he will overcome that illness and he will be all right by the time we go to play. Which is actually a much better update, because I thought that he might have had some sort of a knock or something. Now, there's a guy named Marcel van de Kaan who has been speaking on Erik Ten Hag, saying everybody in the Netherlands is convinced that there is no future for Erik Ten Hag at Manchester United. I mean, I don't know where he said this comments. And why does that seem like to be the only comment that he's made? So I don't know where he said it. But yeah, I mean, I don't know what kind of weight that holds. And I actually, excuse me for this, but I don't even know who the fuck Marcel van der Kran is. Maybe one of you can enlighten me, but I'm not, when I don't know somebody, I'm not going to pretend. You know, maybe I should know who he is, but I don't know who he is. I'm looking up a Google image of him. Who the fuck is this old guy? This old ass motherfucker. No offense to the old people in here, Richard. I'm not picking on you, or Ray, or anybody else that's here. But yeah, this guy seems grumpy. He seems grumpy. He seems unhappy with his life. Who the fuck is... Anyway. Yeah, so I don't know what that means, and that's kind of a big statement. I mean, you really have the opinion of everybody in the Netherlands. The entire country. You've asked the entire country. You've polled all of the Netherlands, and they've unanimously said that they are convinced that there's no future in Erik Ten Hag at Manchester United. What a statement this guy's made. It might be poll of the century. I mean, how have you gotten that one? That's crazy. That's crazy. So Manchester United's next 5 matches is Brentford, Fenerbahce, West Ham, Leicester, and Chelsea. So I guess my question would be to all of you in here right now. How many do you think we will win under Erik Ten Hag? Next 5 matches. You know, some of you are saying that he needs more time. Some of you want to see him get more time. So we are playing Brentford at home. We got to go play Fenerbahce away. We got to play West Ham away. We're playing Leicester at home, and we're playing Chelsea at home. So you got the next 5 matches. How many do you think we will win? And then I would also pose the question to you and say, how many do you think, or how many points out of those matches do you think Erik Ten Hag needs to get for him to continue on after that period? Because again, I don't feel confident going into any match anymore. I think in the beginning of the season, I was hopeful, and I was like, all right, it's the beginning of the season. I watched Fulham. You know, I was like, all right, it wasn't the best display. It wasn't the strongest display. We got 3 points. We got the win. There was some encouraging signs. You know, and then even in the other couple matches, I was like, all right, it's still early in the season. We're just, you know, we'll figure it out in the next couple matches. But now I'm extremely worried. And every time we go into a match, I don't know what we're going to see. And I do constantly fear that we're going to lose a match in one way or another, whether we make some type of crazy mistake or we just play like, you know, we're half asleep or whatever it is. So you know, I don't feel confident going into any of those matches. I think Brentford is going to give us a tough game. I am actually worried about the Brentford match because I think Brentford play good football. I think they play attacking football and a high intensity, and they can if they set up in that way. And I think it could be a tough match, and I could see us not getting a win in that match at this moment in time. And Fenerbahce is going to be a tough match. I mean, we've been talking about how Fenerbahce was going to be a tough match when we drew. And that was before all these poor results that followed. So Fenerbahce, I can see, you know, a loss. I could see it happening. You know, so that's 2 out of the 5. West Ham, I think we could beat them, but I could also see a draw. But I guess it would really depend also, you know, what we do in Fenerbahce and Brentford. You know, because if we, like, let's say we win, we beat Brentford, and let's say we tie Fenerbahce, I'll be a little bit more encouraged, and maybe the play will be better. So maybe I might say, well, we should probably get this win against West Ham, even though it is away. That kind of hurts me there as well, because I worry when we go to play away matches, even though none of the matches have been good home or away. But I worry even more so when we play away matches. And if we're not playing good at home, I certainly worry away more. Then we're playing Leicester, and I think we should be able to beat Leicester. And then we play Chelsea, and I think the current moment, on paper, Chelsea would beat us. But because it's Chelsea and it's considered a bigger game, there's always that aspect that United might just go and play a really good game and somehow get a win, or we could just do like we did against Liverpool and Tottenham and just completely get humiliated. So yeah, I don't know. It's hard to really say. Washanga Joseph saying, let's trust the process. Well, we're going to have to for now, at least at the very least, because it's, you know, even if you want Ten Hag gone or you think it's the right decision, we are being put into the process. So let's see how the process goes, I would say, to Washanga Joseph. Lyle says Mount was brought for the pressing system and that hasn't worked out. Well, you know, if he was brought for that and it hasn't worked out, are you saying that it hasn't worked out like from Mount's point of view, or are you saying that the pressing system itself hasn't worked out? Because, you know, him not being available, you know, you can make an argument that maybe it's leading to why the pressing system hasn't worked out, because he's not constantly available. Therefore, we bought a player for the pressing system to improve the pressing system. But if he's not available, then obviously the pressing system isn't going to be able to improve if he's not there adding to it. Lyle saying these players need this 2 weeks off. It's injuries. Um, yeah, I mean, I would, this is what I'm saying. Like, there's a lot of times where I argue, like, forget the international teams, forget that BS. Tell them they got a knock or something. Don't let them go. Uh, you know, the club is more important. The club is more important, and if we're in a bad state and the players in a bad state, I don't need them going on fucking international, potentially picking up an injury or some shit to go play some nonsense that I don't really care about. I care about Manchester United. I don't care about these European competitions. Yeah, cool. It's cool to watch or whatever. And if you support your country, I get it. Um, I don't. My country's never in them because we're too small and we're definitely not good enough, and we don't even have professional players. We have semi-professional players. They play football by night. They work a day during the job. So we're never really involved in it. And then I support England, which is just a disaster. It's always been. Even prior to my life. So, Act saying, thank God they don't go to their nationals. I mean, they really need to skip that. And yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I mean, I've said it in a couple different times, in a couple different situations. Like, just tell them they got a knock or some shit. Don't let them go. Don't tell them I'm not letting them go. Just make up a lie. Lie to them. Fuck them. United is more important, and especially because we're in a bad situation right now. We need to figure it out. So, I think Axe saying all of them. You think we're gonna win all of them, or we're gonna lose all of them? I think you're saying we're gonna win all of them. But yeah. Brentford is super dangerous. Lions is now joining in, telling people to trust the process. So a wave is coming over the chat. We're trusting the process. You know why they're dangerous? Because Thomas Frank, the future Manchester United manager. Yes, in Lyle's, in Lions' dreams, he is already the Manchester United manager. And he has nice dreams about Thomas Frank being the Manchester United manager every night before he goes to bed. And then he wakes up and realizes that it hasn't happened yet. But he doesn't lose faith in it. He's 100% sure it's gonna happen one day. I pray for us if it does happen, Lions. And you know what? I will give you the utmost credit if it ever does happen, and he ends up doing a good job. Yeah. Because I don't. He's not for me, but you're allowed to say whatever you want. You're allowed to think whatever you want. So, Giovanni asking me if I've played FC25, one of the worst games, similar to last year's. I have played. I am an avid player. I play constantly. I am I'm a FIFA person. I'm upset. Yeah, like Lyle said, he's got no aura. He's got no aura, Lions. He just don't got the aura. But I do play FC25. And it is a horrible game. Unfortunately, but it is unfortunately the only football game we have at this moment. And I'm hoping that, soon there is a couple other football games coming out, and hopefully one of them can be good, because I am really tired of I'm really tired of EA Sports and their shitty games. It's horrible. It's toxic. And that's what I'll say is toxic. And I don't say many things are toxic, but EA is a toxic company. And a lot of people that play the game as well are very, very toxic. But it's such a bad game. It's such a bad game. And it's unfortunate because I enjoy playing football games. I enjoy playing, with football players in a video game, but it's just a bad game, but it's the only game we got. So, yeah, it's just horrible. It is horrible. The Lions flipping it around very cleverly. I like that, Lions. He flipped it around on he who shall not be named. I like that. That's funny. Did a good job on that one. You did a good job on that. Lion saying, I figured it out for Ten Hag. He should just ask himself, what would Thomas do? Thomas Tuchel. What would Thomas Tuchel do? You see what I did there? No, I know you meant Thomas Frank. Um, Lion is saying, who would have thought that EA would release a good FC game? Ha ha ha. We need 13, 14 team back. Well, that's never going to happen because of what they did to the company, right? And I've made some comparisons in the past to EA to United in terms of commercialism, right? And you could take a look at what EA did. I mean, the people that used to make the game, they used to actually be part of the company. They used to be employed. And they used to remake the game every year, which is why the game used to always be good, because they always basically made the game from scratch. So, you know, when they made 07, they would quickly, as soon as 07 got released, they would quickly start working on making 08 because it would be a new game. So that's why those games used to be good. And the people that actually made the games, that like actually knew what they were doing, they used to actually stay employed. But after a certain point, when they got one of those CEOs, they kind of fired all those people because they were like, we don't need you. And you know, we don't have to pay you all this money to keep creating a new game when we could kind of just sort of update it, right? And then that way we can hire more people and focus on content. And that's where the game has gone wrong, right? It's not about, the game used to be about quality, and it used to be towards the customers. Now it's about how much money can EA Sports make. So the quality of the product lacks because all they care about is how much money can we suck out of all the people that played this game. So the gameplay is shit. There's bugs in the game. The game is broken. It's poor quality. Because they don't care about that. Because at the end of the day, you know, you have little children and addicts, like gambling addicts, that just go and spend thousands and thousands of dollars opening packs to get shafted by EA. And as long as they continue to make money and, you know, make more money every year and make profits, we're never going to see an improvement. Never. Which is kind of just, you know, there was a time that I likened it to United. I'm like, you know, look at how United was. And I kind of see them as the same. The two big entities, right? And we kind of went down that path as well. Like, we just focused so much on commercialism. And we never got the football aspect right. And because of that, the quality of our football suffered on the pitch. Meanwhile, we were raking in all this money through commercial deals, right? So we were still making money. We were still a big name, but we were shit on the pitch. And it's like the same thing for EA. They're still a big company. They make billions of dollars, but the product itself is trash. It's not fun to play. It's not, you know, it's not how it used to be. So I see them in the same boat, really. But yeah, no. I actually thought at one time, and maybe you guys would like it too. But I was thinking at one time I was gonna make another channel separate, and I was just gonna shit on EA Sports and FC, and kind of just, you know, do a channel that kind of banters the shit out of them, like get bad gameplay clips and broken clips and shit, and just like, you know, do little videos on it, and kind of just, you know, make fun of them, and talk all sorts of crap about EA Sports and FC. Uh, and I sometimes I still feel like I kind of want to do it, but I don't know. And maybe I will do it sometime soon, but maybe let's see how much this game pisses me off. Because I have thought about doing it for quite some time. I think it would be funny because I think I could be a lot more. I could be a lot more. I don't know, disrespectful towards them. Because I don't like them. So and I could be a lot more unhinged, I guess, when I make those videos, and I think they would be funny, and I think they would be good. So I still do think about it. I might do it. I have half a feeling to do it. Uh, but I haven't fully decided to do it yet. So I don't know. You know, but you guys could come watch them if you want. I will do it. I mean, if I do it, I will let the I can be a lot more passionate. Yeah, let's call it that. I could be a lot more passionate. And for sure, because you know, if you were in the gameplay chats with me and stuff like that, you know, with my buddies online and stuff like that, they would tell you more than anybody, just like how I go on my little rants about United. I go on rants about EA and FIFA and stuff like that. And sometimes I do drive them crazy, but I do go on the rants in that aspect. So Chobani saying they should do studies on our brains while we are playing champs. It would be interesting to see what they find. I think they have done that. But actually there was a thing that came out the other day and I was highly insulted when I seen it. I think it was on X I saw it, where they did a study on the IQ of certain players, of video game players, and they broke it up by people that play certain games. So they did like League of Legends players, and then they did like, you know, another game, and they did another game, and then they said the highest IQ set of people on the study that they did were people that played League of Legends or whatever that game is called. I don't play it. I've never played it, so I'm not sure. But they said that they averaged the highest IQ, and they said the people that averaged the lowest IQ were people that play EAFC, and I was highly offended. I was highly offended that they've lumped me in as a low IQ person. I was like, we're the lowest? I was like, I thought we would be higher. I feel like the game to play football, right? I feel like in general football, like to understand football and to play football games, like I always felt like shooters are easier to play than a sports game, because sports games you kind of have to understand patterns and how to play the sport and shit. So I always thought like, and they're telling us that we're the lowest IQ people, and I'm highly offended. I don't think I'm low IQ. But then I was thinking about the rest of the people that play the game, right? And not the rest of the people, I mean like a large majority of the people. And I'm like, well, I can kind of see that, because if you do look at how a lot of people play the game, they just abuse certain mechanics that doesn't take a lot of thought process, like doing the speed boost, which is literally like just clicking 2 buttons and you abuse the mechanic of the game. And I was like, they don't actually play football. Like, I'm not one of those people. I don't do 17 million skill moves. I don't do the most broken skill mechanics or whatever to, you know, I play actual football. Like when I play online, I just do passes. I play regular football. I don't do too many skill moves. I don't, you know, and I get wins. I get a lot of wins. I'm pretty good. I'm in Division 2 right now. I'm about to be in Division 1. I went 11-4 in the first weekend league, so I don't think I'm a bad player. I used to be way better, but I don't think I'm bad right now. I used to be way better. I used to be top 100 at one point, but not anymore. But yeah, I mean, and then I kind of thought about it, and I'm like, well, I was like, there's a lot of people that I was like, they're probably just on their brainless, kind of just like they abuse one mechanic running down the sideline the entire game. And I was like, maybe that kind of makes sense. They averaged it in, but I was like, I'm certainly not one of those people. Johnny's saying he was offended, but then realized how childish I can be when I rage at the game. I mean, but being childish doesn't mean you're low IQ, Giovanni. Doesn't mean you're low IQ, Giovanni. I mean, the game is infuriating. I rage too. I think everybody rages. It's a game that makes no sense. It's such an infuriating game. It is the only game that I've ever played that I feel like the game is against me. You know, I play Call of Duty. I don't feel like that. I play other games. I've never played a game where I go into a game and I feel like no matter what I do, I'm meant to lose this game. You know what I mean? Or just the most ridiculous shit happens, or you play somebody that is clearly not better than you, but somehow, you know, they're either beating you or they beat you off of some dumb shit. So it's the only game. And I think the game is torture at times. Like, they should use that shit in Guantanamo Bay or something to, like, torture fucking terrorists or whatever it is. You know? Like, shit is crazy. Best game or most fun? I don't know at this time. There's not many games. I mean, I enjoy playing Football Manager when it comes out. I like Football Manager. I enjoy FIFA for a little bit in the beginning until it becomes absolutely just broken and EA mess it up with all their shitty patches. Um, I like Call of Duty. Call of Duty is fun. I like to play Call of Duty, although albeit the last one was shit and I didn't really play it. But this one that's coming out seems pretty good. And it's fun to play with the boys and stuff, so I enjoy that as well. I like Gears of War, but you know, that takes time. And the original 3 part was obviously the best. I feel like after that, it's kind of gone a little bit downhill and it's not as hyped as it used to be, or not as good as it used to be, but Gears of War is good. I was a big Halo guy, still a big Halo guy because I love the story. But I used to play a lot of Halo online. I don't do so anymore because it's I don't really like it too much. But yeah, you know, it's pretty much for the most part. And Grand Theft Auto, of course. But you know, we're waiting for the new one. When the new one comes out, this channel might cease to exist, and I think the world might stop because I think everybody's just going to be playing Grand Theft Auto for like, you know, 325 days straight. With the way it looks and stuff, you know, it looks fantastic. So, yeah. For me, best game, I'm torn between Red Dead Redemption 2 and Ghost of Tsushima Director's Cut. Yeah, a lot of people like Red Dead Redemption 2. I kind of played half of it. I don't know why. Maybe it's like the time setting. But I liked Assassin's Creed. I don't know. Or maybe I just played it really late. I never like played it when it came out. I kind of jumped on it late. And I did play all of it, but I never finished it. And I don't know why. I don't think it's a bad game. I think it's a very well-made game. I think it's a good game. Never, you know, fun game. Fall Guys or Rocket League. Fall Guys is good. We were playing that recently when we were all done with the last FIFA and we had nothing to play. Rocket League is crazy because after a certain point, if you don't know how to fly with that damn car, you're screwed. And it's not as easy as it looks. So, you know, been playing since 2006. It's sad how enjoyable it is now. Playing feels more like a chore. It really does, and I kind of feel like that too. I almost gave it up, really, because I used to take it very competitively. I was very competitive in that. I used to, you know, I used to be one of those guys to try and get like 100 wins and 0 losses. Like that was my goal. Like I was like always trying to be on the top 100 leaderboard. I was trying to go undefeated. I took it very seriously, like it was a job. Like I always tried to perform the best. Now I don't really give a shit because I just find the game so poorly made that it's like it's a joke. And it is sad because at some point, and it does feel like a chore at some point. It doesn't feel fun to play. It almost feels like you're like, fuck, I have to go play these games. Like, like, you know, you're not excited to go do it. You're like, you like, you get stressed and anxious. You're like, yeah, I have to go do this. Like, because you're trying to get the rewards and make your team better and shit. So yeah. I would not put COD on the fun in the same sentence. For me, it is, but maybe that's because I'm pretty. I mean, it is agitating in certain aspects, right? But it gets me kind of in that competitive mode because I don't know why. Like, you know, there are times where like I'm getting absolutely just destroyed, but I always go into like this mindset of like, all right, I'm gonna start going, and then I kind of hit a period and I start going crazy. I mean, if you guys think I get passionate here, you should hear me in the game chat because I start screaming and I'm like, let's go, let's go. Like I start going crazy, you know what I mean? So like I do get hyped up. It gets me all excited and stuff. So yeah, it's a good time. It's a good time. Even though I do get it. It can be a little you know. See, God of War I never played because I didn't have PlayStation, but I just got the PC, so I've been like because I've been an Xbox guy for like almost ever. So I was looking into playing God of War on my PC because I could play these games now. Among Us. Yeah, for sure. Play a lot. You play a lot less now, and it has helped keep my sanity. Yeah, 100%, and just laugh when the game is silly. Yeah, because it's the game, you know. I think before it used to be more competitive, so it used to go more on yourself, but now that you know that the game is really bad, like, you can't hold it against yourself. Like, it's just nonsense. But yeah, we're gonna end the show. I'm just gonna check real quick to see if we got any other update. Which I don't think we did. They didn't say how that young man passed away, unfortunately. So whatever it was, I feel bad and I'm sorry for him. Um, yeah, that was tragic. That's tragic. And that's sad to hear. So I wish him and his family all the best. And I mean, well, his family. But yeah. All right. Uh. Oh yeah. He was found dead in his swimming pool. Oh, that's awful. That's a terrible way to go too. Jesus. I mean, I don't think it. I mean, I'm not gonna say what it is. I don't think it was drugs. I would hope it's not drugs. Because I think he was still playing. Pretty sure he was still playing football, so I wouldn't expect it to be drugs. I'd be very surprised if it was drugs, and that would be sad. It's still sad anyway, but I think it would make it more sad because people could have opinions on that, and I've known some people, that I've older brothers of people I went to school with, and just people that I known personally. And at least I think off the top of my head, I could think of at least 6 or 7 of them that have all died from drugs, overdose. Um, and people can have the opinion on what they want about people that use drugs, but from 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 experience, I've really seen, how bad it is in terms of that, like, you know I've had, 2 of the guys that are no longer alive that I knew. I had full conversations with them, and they looked me in the face, and they told me, like, they wanted to stop, but it was just so difficult, and they really struggled, and like, the addiction takes over, and it's really bad. Like, like, one of them told me, and one of them told me one time the way he described it, and I'm glad he did because it stayed in my head, and I was like, I, I was like, I'll never, like, not that I was going to, but I was like, I'll definitely never go anywhere near it ever, because the way he described it kind of scarred me for life. And he basically was just like, he was like, if he was like, I need it, like, it's my medicine. He was like, if I don't take it, I start to feel like I'm dying, and I start to feel like I'm going to die. And he's like, I need to take it, even though I know it's bad for me, and it fucks me up. And I don't do good things when I'm on it, but when I try to stop, I feel like I'm dying, and I never heard anybody explain it like that. And when he did, I was just like, that's one of the most awful things I've ever heard anybody say. Um, and I was like, I would never want to be in a situation where, essentially, you're being controlled by something. You know what I mean? And even if you know that it's not good for you, and you want to stop, it's like you can't stop. So um, yeah, and I'm sure there'll be updates on that. So I always feel bad, because a lot of people, the world is a crazy place out there, and a lot of people have opinions when they hear people that have passed from drugs and stuff like that. And some people are a little bit more harsh. I'm a little bit more sympathetic because I think it's just a sad story. Like, they get hooked to it. And I think, I've seen the levels of addiction that it does to people. Um, and I see how I've seen how difficult it is for people to 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 break that addiction. And so I feel bad for them in that aspect, because it's like, I was like, it's just such a difficult thing. Even if they want to do it, a lot of them, you know, either they don't have the willpower to do it or whatever it is. Like it's not just because they're it's usually not just because like they're idiots or something and they just, you know, refuse to stop. It's literally because they can't. Like they literally can't. Like the only way the only way for them to really stop would, like, you would have to take them and lock them up in a room, and they would have to obviously suffer from the withdrawals, and you would have to lock them up for a significant amount of time so that they get through it, but they're going to be in a lot of pain. But if they have the freedom, they can't really control themselves. Now some people are able to, but you know, it's different circumstances for everybody. Some people just aren't able to do it, you know. So yeah, it's not bad. Lion said being addicted to drugs are and alcohol is an illness, and they need help. It's no more or less than any other illness, and yeah, that's how I see it as well. You know, it really is. Can I ask what kind of drug it was? Um, so I think they were not all of them because I think they were all taking different types. But the one that the dude told me that he needed to take it because it was a medicine, and that he didn't. When he didn't take it, he would start feeling like he was dying, and he was like, "It keeps me alive." Um, it's a drug called the Blues. That's the street name. I believe it's a synthetic heroin, so it's a pill. It's like a small little blue round pill. It, they call them blues. I'm sure it has like another name, but it's a form of synthetic heroin. Um, from what I understand. And those are really really bad. But I know other people that they they take in all types of shit. I mean, they take in Xanax, they take in Percocets, they take in cocaine, and yeah, you know, I've seen people, you know, people that I was friends with that would take Xanax. Bad shit would happen, crash their car, they hit somebody, they hit somebody with their car while they were driving. They've stolen shit because it turns them into not them, turns them into somebody else. You know, I've seen bad stuff. So in one aspect, I'm kind of lucky because I didn't have to experience personally to learn from it. Um, so in that aspect, I considered myself lucky, but at the same time, you know, it was sad to watch. It really was sad to watch. So, yeah. Um, Great show today, Eric. Love the random chats at the end, and thanks for getting real tonight. Appreciate you, bro. As always, and thank you guys for being here. And you know, we made the most of you know what it was today. It's been slow. It's an international break. The news is usually slow. And I think when these things do happen, I think we still do manage to I think we still do manage to have great shows, and you know, I'm nothing against while it is a United channel. I think you know, sometimes it is nice to just change the topic a little bit. And you know, I have no problem with doing it as well. Especially on a day like today where there really isn't much to cover. But I wanted to go live because it did seem like, you know, Erik Ten Hag is basically staying, even though nobody else really reported, and there's no like official confirmation, but that's the word. So I wanted to come out here and say it since we were covering it, and I felt like I had to do it. And Wednesday is I'm gonna let you guys in a little secret, because I always do this at the end of the shows, because whoever gets to the end of the show, I feel like they deserve to do it, because we do quite long shows anyway. And some say maybe they're too long, but I don't really mind. And I know that some people like really long forums. Some people might think that we should do them shorter, but it is what it is. But in terms of analytics, Wednesday is the worst day. Wednesday is the worst day for whatever reason. And I mean, you could like kind of look it up too. Like there's a lot of, they take statistics for YouTube. For analytics, for views, Wednesday is the worst day. I don't know if it's because it's like in the middle of the week or something like that, but tendencies, Wednesday seems to be lower for interaction and views. So it's not even like a great day to do per se a show to get views and stuff like that. And it was a slow day in news anyway. So I was kind of thinking that I was going to skip it and try and, you know, maybe work on uploading some videos from like the other older content. But I was like, you know what? Let's just do the live anyway, because you know it doesn't really matter about that in the end. And I'd rather just have the discussion anyway. So, yeah, we did it. So, watch Sword Art online. Uh, not Sal. Just as a side note. But yeah, it was a good show. And I don't know, because it is an international break. The news is slow, so I don't know what we're gonna get covered tomorrow. Um, so we'll see if I'll go live. If it is very slow and very boring, you might not see a show scheduled. I might skip it. And instead I will work on trying to get the call-in segment up for this channel, because I want to get it in by at least next match we play. And maybe I could have, if we don't do it in the Red Devil recap, I could do it the following day, and we could have people call in and give their opinions on it. Because I still have to try and figure out what I want to do. I don't know if I want to do it during the Red Devil recap. We could maybe provide a segment at the end of the Red Devil recap, to a phone-in segment, as well. But I still got to kind of think and process that out. And then obviously we have to test and try and see what works best. So, nothing's going to be set in stone. We're going to try a couple different things and see how it goes. So, yeah. So obviously, I'll try and keep you guys updated one way or another. Either I'll put out a community post, updating you guys if I'll do a show or not, or I'll just schedule it, an hour or so before if I do decide we're going to do one. Or something like that. So yeah. But everybody take care, and thank you if you smashed the like button, because I greatly appreciate it and it helps us out. And we did get 13 likes, so we are increasing the average likes on this channel, which is great to see. And I was always fairly confident. Could try a random shit day. I mean, yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think there's a couple different places that we could implement it and stuff like that. So it's really going to be a test and a trial and error type of thing, which is fine, because we're still a small channel and we're still growing. So there's nothing wrong with trying things, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. And if it does, or if it's better in one aspect than it is in the other, then so be it. It's part of the process. We are growing, and we are. I think we're doing good. I'm happy with the way we're going. I was a little worried when I came back from vacation, because I was wondering what happened to why we were kind of getting shut out. And I was worried. And that's what I'm saying, Lines. Like, I feel like, at some point I would like to do stuff like that, but obviously I don't want to do it on this channel, because this channel is supposed to be a united channel, right? So I feel like at some point I might have to create another, 2 channels or so, 1 or 2 channels, and then we could do stuff like that. I would do a DBZ stream or something like that, or just, a random and then Axe saying, yeah, YouTube dragged you down for the pause. And that's what I kind of felt like. And it was very weird though, because when I came back, the first couple shows, Random Devil Experience, that's actually a good name. that's a good name. That's a good name. We could use that one. Yeah, but when I came back, I did like the first 2-3 shows. One of them we hit the all-time high. So I don't know if it was because it didn't reset. So it kind of kept us in there, and then it reset the week after and then brought us back down because of the pause. So I was just like, I didn't really understand what the hell happened. I was like, we hit like a couple thousand for like 2-3 shows in a row, and then all of a sudden it dropped all the way down to only 100, and we weren't getting pushed into the browse features. We weren't getting pushed into recommendations from other channels. So I was a little bit worried, because I was like, maybe they've decided that the channel is shit and maybe people don't like it, and they're not going to recommend us. And I was like, we're going to have to fight hard to try and correct that. But I think we're doing we seem to be getting back into the regular flow that we were really getting into once we started doing that. So and a cooking channel. Well, we could do that on the random stuff, right? We could jump around on topics. Maybe I could do it on Twitch as well. Um, it doesn't have to be specifically to YouTube. Maybe we could do it on Twitch. Because we could stream it on Twitch, and then I could take it from Twitch and cut up the clips. I could cut up the Twitch thing, click and put up clips, and then put the clips to YouTube. So we could kind of do the live streams on Twitch, and then we cut it up, and then we get the following for the channel on the YouTube channel as well. So you don't have Twitch, but you're gonna have to get it. You're gonna have to get it. I'm making you get it, Lions, if we do it. No, I don't know. We'll figure it out. We're just we're just brainstorming right now. Nothing is set, we'll figure it out. YouTube employs toxic expectations for the content creators, wanting them to work like slaves. I mean, yeah, I disagree with some of the way that things are pushed. And I do want to kind of start branching out. I've been looking at, there is a thing that you can get that kind of streams you to everywhere. So you don't just stream just solely to YouTube. I can go live. It would put me live on YouTube, on Twitch, on TikTok, on probably a couple other platforms. And I was thinking about doing that because I think maybe it might help and be able to get, more of an audience or more followers. But I need to look a little bit more into that and see if it is a good idea. Since we are small still, I don't know if we should build the YouTube up more and then branch out, or it would help the YouTube while branching out in multiple places right now. So yeah, I'm gonna write that down though, so I don't forget, because I will forget. So I'm gonna put it in my phone right now, because I actually do like that. Good name. So channel ideas, and I'm gonna put Lyle's name next to it, so we remember who to give credit to. Lyle Wilson says random type random devil experience. Although they might think that we are satanic cultists, so I don't know, but we'll see. But it's it goes off of it's like a spin-off of our brand. Like, it's almost like a brand thing, it's a spin-off of this. Not the Red Devil experience, but it is random devil experience. I just don't want them to think we're satanic cultists. Because they might start to think we're satanic cultists if we start naming everything devil. You know what I mean? And Lions does get credit for my cooking show. Yes, of course. Did we have a name for it, Lions? Did we have a name for it? Because I can't remember. Yeah, that's also another thing with the demonetization. Which we don't have that there yet. Cook United. Cooking devil experience. They're gonna get in trouble. we're gonna get labeled as satanic cultists. United We Cook. Yeah, there you go. United We Cook. Name. Yeah, that's what it was. It was that. Which is also good. United We Cook. Yeah, that's good. Yeah. So, they're gonna say though. Yeah, the RDE VTuber comes out. I will, don't worry. Yeah, the strictness is crazy though, with the demonetization also. That would worry me for the future. Oh, that's what I was gonna say. So, just to update you guys real quick before I do end this, because it's gone on way longer than I thought it was going to today, but again, I never really worry about those things. But I want to update you guys. So we are, if I could pull this up somewhere so I could give you the exact number. So getting um in terms of getting eligibility for memberships and super chats and whatnot like that, we are about a little under 900 watch hours away, which isn't technically a lot considering what we're getting for about each show and the length of the shows. So we're gonna be there sooner rather than later. So we're gonna get that aspect. And then the big one will be once we hit that, we'll be about 1,000 hours away from getting the channel uh money from ads and stuff like that, and ad revenue, which would be awesome and amazing. So we can actually really push for that. Now I think the ad revenue one is going to be a little bit tough, but the membership parts and the super parts, uh we are going to get it with the way that we're going. We will get it soon. Now I don't know exactly when. I don't know when to really estimate it. Maybe in the next month. It could be a little bit shorter than that, depending on how well the next couple streams or the streams go from here on out. But yeah, we are. So right now it's telling me that we need 3,000 public watch hours. We have 2,017, and that's updated from October 4th. So it hasn't even put in or taken to account any of the things after October 4th, so in the last 5 days. So I think actually we're probably a little bit even more closer, because we should be. So that's good news, and I'm excited about that. And hopefully when we get that, I want to make like custom stuff for that, because I think there's a couple things you could do, like custom stickers and badges or whatever, stuff like that. So yeah, and that's something I'm gonna have to start looking into as well, because we're gonna have to get on top of that when we get it. But we are almost there. And then to get the revenue for ads and whatnot, that takes 4,000 public watch hours. So we still are a little bit under 2,000 away from that. But I think even so, with the way we're going, we can get there. So you know we will be looking and hope to hit that. Elias should be asking for royalties. Well, I could give him some royalties once we start getting royalties for sure. We need to get things. Axe needs to go. We'll see you later, Axe. Eric, as I mentioned, can you not just do a block screen stream for 24 hours and we just run it in the background? I don't think that would be good though. Um, I don't think that would be good though for the channel and play the system a bit. I don't think we could do that, because I feel like if you could do that, I feel like you would see people doing that, and you don't see people doing that. And also, I think that there's a limit on the time of streams, so they would cut the stream off after some point anyway. And it would probably hurt the channel. You know what I mean? Because while a couple of you might click on it and leave it running in the background, right? The large majority of people would probably either not click on it, or they would click on it and exit out, which would hurt the statistics of the channel, in the long run, or it might affect, other videos and stuff getting recommended and stuff, especially if, like, let's say we did that, right? And we had, 10 of you just running it in the background, and then a bunch of people went on it, realized it's just a black screen, and they downvoted the shit out of it, and we wake up the next morning and there's 107 dislikes. It's not going to be good. I would have to take it off. So yeah, I think it's not bad. Listen, I'm okay with it. It doesn't have to be the quickest thing. It's fine, but I think we're could it always be better? Sure, but it's not bad, and I think we're doing decently good. So we just take it as it comes, and we do it the natural and authentic way. You know what I mean? And that's fine. You know, that takes a little bit longer, but you know, we're not going anywhere. So yeah, we just do it as it goes. So but I am gonna go, and I will catch you guys later because it is late. So thank you guys. Uh but yes, yeah, exactly. Fine wine, fine wine. And thank you guys for being involved, and everybody else that was in here. You know, Jabani and of course Lyle Lyons, uh, Axe, Richard was in here earlier. Rajat, Grace, no, Grace didn't. Ray was in here. Yeah, just shout out to everybody that was in here. That got involved, and everybody that smashed the like button. So, I will catch you guys. Later. I don't know about tomorrow. We'll see. If not tomorrow, then you know, probably most likely we'll come back on Friday. Hopefully, we get some updates and news, something to talk about because you know, it is what it is. Wait. Write down the channel name. What channel name? Red Devils Unscripted. Oh yeah, I write it down. Red Devils Unscripted. Yeah, thank you. I missed that. Yeah, it's for the random channel. Specify the channel. Yep. All right. Thank you guys for that. What's on the menu? We made pasta yesterday. Some pasta with shrimp and broccoli. In a garlic sauce type of thing. It's not really like garlic sauce, but like garlic, you know, like a garlic what do they call it? Reduction or whatever it is. Like garlic and wine, something like that. So it's very good. Um, very good. And we got leftovers of that, so I'm gonna eat that. But yeah, let me get out of here. Um, always leftovers when we ask. Yeah, I mean we cook. We usually, you know, we cook and then we usually cook extra because why not? You know, you're already in the process of cooking, so might as well have the leftovers. Um, and it's good. So you know, but it is always leftovers. I mean, if you asked me yesterday, it wasn't leftovers. It was fresh. So you know, but you asked me today and not yesterday. Cheers, guys. Have a good one. Be good, and we'll talk very, very soon. And I'll see you guys later. So be good and have and enjoy yourselves. And stay safe. And we will speak very, very soon.